Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. Today we will see what if Naruto kicked out of Team 7. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. Naruto spun at the sound of his sensei's voice to see 4 kunai coming straight for him. Throwing himself to the left, Naruto felt 2 of them burrow themselves into his leg while the other 2 impaled themselves into a tree. "Ah!" Naruto cried as he hit the ground and staggered to his feet again. "Damn," Kakashi said had he saw his student crash to the ground with kunai embedded in his leg. All the same he felt a rush of pride as Naruto climbed to his feet again. Checking on his other 2 students he saw that they were not faring much better. Sakura was barely keeping up with the attacks her opponents were throwing at her again and again. She was tiring. Sasuke had a line of blood trickling from the corner of his mouth as he blew fire at his 2 opponents. "We have to finish this." Kakashi finished of his opponents with quick definite movements and was going to go help Naruto when he saw Sakura go down under a blow to her head. Shit, changing direction in a second he blocked the next attack on his student as watched as Sakura stood to finish her cast his eye over Sakura seeing no major wounds he turned his attention to the other 2. Sasuke was just knocking out his enemies and was moving to join them. Naruto was still duking it out with his 2 and they crumbled to the ground under his relentless blows. "Sensei." Too late Kakashi noticed that Naruto was only fighting 2 people whereas before he was fighting 3. He spun round to see a shuriken flying straight at him. Sasuke watched as his sensei spun around and saw what was coming towards him. Desperately he lunged forward to try and save his sensei, but Naruto go there quicker. "Naruto!" Sasuke heard Sakura scream as Naruto hit the ground and Kakashi finished of all 3 of Naruto's attackers with one move. Kakashi waited for the inevitable blow of pain he knew he would be receiving soon and gasped when he saw the flash of orange move in front of him, then get thrown backward by the weapon and landing on the ground a few feet in front of him. "Naruto!" His mind screamed even as he heard Sakura call out to Naruto. Kakashi charged forward and killed the 3 that had injured his student and then swiftly turned to fall beside his student. "Naruto, can you hear me?" Sakura watched as Kakashi gently raised Naruto's head into his lap and tried to get Naruto to regain consciousness. "Naruto, can you hear me?" Kakashi softly asked. "Naruto, please open your eyes," Sakura begged in her mind. Sasuke watched as the weapon plowed into his rival, friend and as Kakashi easily killed the 3 enemies left. "Why didn't you kill them before they got the dobi?" Sasuke thought quietly to himself as Kakashi began bandaging Naruto's wounds, gently removing the weapon still stuck in him. "Is he going to die, sensei?" Sasuke heard Sakura ask, cringing at the thought. Kakashi ignored the question and worked swiftly to stop Naruto's bleeding. They were too far away from Konoha to make it back before night and traveling in the cold darkness would kill Naruto. Speaking quickly he ordered his other 2 students to set up camp. At their confused looks he explained his reasons and watched as they hurried to follow his instructions. Sighing he turned back to his injured student he whispered softly in his ear, "You're not allowed to die, you hear me Naruto, I won't have any of my students dying on me." This is all the dobi's fault, thought Sasuke. Because of how serious Naruto's injuries were Kakashi was bunking with him which left Sasuke with the oh so annoying Sakura. Resigning himself to a sleepless night, Sasuke was surprised to enter the tent and find Sakura huddled in her sleeping bag silently sobbing. Not knowing what to do Sasuke moved over to Sakura and pulled her into a hug. Knowing she was worried about Naruto he assured that Naruto was too stubborn to die. This promptly earned him a punch in the head for insulting poor Naruto. Sasuke smiled to himself as he moved over to his sleeping bag to wait until it was his turn to take watch. "Oh man, my body hurts," Naruto thought to himself and he tried to see where he was. "Well, what do you expect when you take a shuriken in the chest and 2 kunai in the leg?" Naruto jumped at the sound of Kyuubi's voice making him groan in pain. "Are the others okay?" he asked. "Yep," Kyuubi answered, "and I think you had best wake up before you worry your sensei to death." Naruto nodded. "And Kit? It will hurt." That was the last Naruto heard as he stirred awake groaning as a wave of pain hit him that was fierce he nearly fell unconscious again. Kakashi moved to his student's side as he heard the groan. Naruto pain-filled blue eyes stared back into his own eye. "Kakashi-sensei," Naruto murmured weakly, "are you alright?" Kakashi allowed himself a small smile at his student's question. Naruto was once again more concerned about others than himself. Yes, Naruto, I'm fine and so is everyone else, Kakashi said before Naruto could ask his next question. He frowned when Naruto coughed up some blood while gasping in pain. He heard a sound behind him and spun kunai in hand. He stopped when he saw it was Sasuke and Sakura. Trust them to know when Naruto was awake, Kakashi thought to himself. Sakura watched as her teammate coughed up blood. Kneeling down beside him, she took his head into her lap and gently cleaned the blood of his face. She could help but smile when she heard his next question. Did we finish the question? He sputtered. Sakura watched as Kakashi leaned forward to support Naruto, although she was already doing just that. Sakura was surprised though when Sasuke was the one who answered Naruto's question. Nope, we didn't, Dobi. Not yet anyway. We still have to get the scrolls back to Konoha. Naruto frowned through his pain. So why haven't you taken them back yet? Kakashi once again leaned forward with a concerned look on his face. In case you didn't notice, you are nearly bleeding to death and moving you at night would not help your condition. Once again a frown touched Naruto's face. Sakura thought that a smile was definitely better suited to Naruto's face. How is that stopping you from going back to Konoha with the scrolls? It's not like I'm going anywhere. He coughed up some blood. You could, take the scrolls back now and then, come back for me afterwards. Kakashi couldn't believe what his student was asking him to do. Abandon him. Abandon Naruto when he was hurt and couldn't defend himself. Like that was going to happen. Thought Kakashi, even as some part of him acknowledged the truth of the matter. We do need to get these scrolls back to Konoha, but I'm not leaving Naruto out here alone. With that last though, Kakashi came to a decision. Sakura, Sasuke, both his students looked up at him, surprised at the tone his voice had taken. Sensei? Take the scrolls and run back to Konoha. He held up a hand to silence their protests. Naruto is right. We do have a mission to finish. Also, since Naruto is injured and none of you have medical experience, I must be the one to remain. The village is not far from here. You should be able to make it in no time and be able to send a retrieval team, which will help Naruto. Kakashi couldn't help but notice the look of victory that crossed Naruto's face as he heard the instructions issued to his teammates. Sasuke couldn't believe what their sensei was asking them to do. Leave him and Naruto alone and injured in Naruto's case, just to finish a mission. Although the idea of bringing back a medical nin for Naruto was a good reason to go anyway. Sensei, if more ninjas turn up you won't be able to defend yourself and Naruto against them. He started. Naruto's pained voice stopped him from finishing his argument. Sasuke, the scrolls are important to the safety of Konoha, they need them and I don't think I'm going to make it back to the village without help. His voice quieter as he finished saying this and they all flinched at his implied message. Without a word, Sakura softly left Naruto's head slide from her lap onto the ground, got in pulling Sasuke with her and grabbing the scrolls left the tent to head back to Konoha. Kakashi watched his other students leave. I hope they will be alright on their own. They're strong enough to survive. Kakashi sends. Naruto started then cried out as another pain wave coursed through his body and coughed up more blood. With a knife in his heart, Kakashi turned back to Naruto and hugged him close to his chest as Naruto fell asleep. I am not letting you die, Naruto, I'm not letting you die. When Naruto awoke the next morning, he found that he was no longer in the tent but was on his sensei's back and they were moving swiftly through the trees. His whole body ached and his throat felt raw. Kakashi sensei, he croaked and felt their movement slow and come a stop. Naruto, how do you feel? His sensei asked as he was lowered him to the ground. Kakashi watched his student with a worried eye. Naruto quickly arranged his face with a huge smile, no matter how much it pained him. I'll survive, Kakashi sensei. I'm going to become Hokage so I can't die yet. Noticing how his sensei cringed at the word die. Sasuke, Sakura-chan? He rasped. By now they should be a quarter of the way there if they stopped to rest around midday, Kakashi said, helping Naruto to swallow some water. His face was once again wearing a frown when Naruto coughed most of it up. Sasuke eyed the girl running next to him before turning his attention back to the guys chasing them. He motioned with a hand that they should jump up into the trees and she hastily followed his movement as a dozen or more kunai smacked into the area they were seconds ago. I hope these are all of them, Sakura shouted at him, making him raise an eyebrow. Sakura gave him a "you're hopeless" look and proceeded to explain her statement. If these are all of them, then they are following us back to Konoha and they will get caught. Sasuke brightened at this possibility. Also, if these are all of them, then are none left to attack Kakashi-sensei and Naruto, Sasuke thought with a grim smile. Sakura had hoped without her saying it that Sasuke would get what she had meant. She gave a small sigh before explaining it. She watched as Sasuke's facial expression changed to a grim smile when she was done. She also realized that if this was all of them, then they were in trouble because Konoha was still miles away and both Sasuke and she were worn out as they had not stopped to rest. Both were eager to get the scrolls back to safety and get help for their teammate and friend. Sakura flinched as a kunai slammed into the tree beside her head and both she and Sasuke picked up their pace. Tsunade and Shizune looked up from the paperwork they were trying to finish to find the location of the disturbance they were hearing. Getting up, they ran out of the office heading outside and towards the disturbance. Gaara and Shino looked away from their training when they heard a loud thump next to them. Seeing an injured ninja there, they ran to help him right before seeing Sakura come flying out of the trees with 3 more ninja following her, apparently trying to kill her. By now more of the genin had started watching and ran to help their friend. Shino caught Sakura before she crashed to the ground breathing heavily. "What's going on here?" Tsunade yelled as she and Shizune arrived on the scene. "Nothing," growled one of the ninja that had attacked Sakura. "This little bitch stole something that belonged to us and we are going to getting it back," he said with a menacing look. Tsunade did not take kindly to the threatening tone the man had when Sasuke burst forth from the trees blowing fire back at 5 more ninja, one of them screaming that they would get the scroll back and he would die a painful death. Tsunade, seeing that both her genin were exhausted and noticing at the same time that Kakashi and Naruto were not present, got fed up with these men and promptly finished them off herself, knocking them out cold in seconds. Sasuke collapsed to the ground on his knees panting for breath. Sakura, still being held by Shino, reached into her backpack and pulled out the scrolls and handed them to Shizune. Tsunade knelt in front of the tired Sakura with the rest of genin surrounding them. "Sakura, where is Kakashi and Naruto?" she asked urgently. Gasping for air, Sakura explained everything, watching as their faces grew more and more worried. By the end of Sakura's tale, Tsunade was well and truly worried, ordering the genin to go to their sensei and tell them to come to her office. Once all of them were gathered, Sakura repeated her story with Sasuke helping this time. Both genin still looked exhausted but refused to stay when Tsunade was telling people which areas to search. They would go even if she told them to stay. Tsunade plonked down in her chair as the last team left. She really hoped the 2 missing ninja would be alright. She had no doubt that they had not captured the entire ninja gang, and since all of them had not followed them, then some had to have gone after Kakashi and Naruto. Kakashi watched as Naruto dozed under a tree. Though his student's wounds were healing at an alarming rate, his body had still suffered a great deal of blood loss, leaving the boy worn and nauseous. He couldn't keep down food and only some water. It worried Kakashi the way the boy continuously coughed up blood. Thinking it was time to move on again, Kakashi wandered over only to jump back as he noticed a kunai come out of nowhere, disappearing and reappearing over with Naruto. He picked the sleeping boy up and took off towards Konoha again. Peering over his shoulder, he noticed the 10 figures giving chase. "Shit!" he cursed and ran at a faster pace. In his arms, Naruto moaned and he was bounced around. Kakashi cuddled his student closer to his chest, hoping to make the movement more cushioned. When one of the figures suddenly appeared in front of him, Kakashi quickly changed direction, but not before a kunai pierced his ankle, causing both him and Naruto to crash to the ground. Kakashi gasped and his grip on Naruto faltered and the boy fell from his arms, rolling a few meters before coming to a stop and lying still. "Naruto!" Kakashi gasped as he got to his feet and moved to defend his student. Ignoring the pain in his foot, Kakashi blocked attack after attack and killed several of attacking ninjas before he was pushes away from Naruto, who was stirring slowly on the ground. So far they are ignoring Naruto, Kakashi thought thankfully. Maybe if I'm lucky I can lead them away from him and then double back to get him. But even as Kakashi was thinking this, one of the men seemed to finally notice Naruto. Probably because he was moving and trying to sit up. Kakashi gasped as the man sank his boot right into Naruto's stomach, kicking the boy into a nearby tree. Kakashi growled as Naruto cried out in pain. Redoubling his efforts, he killed 2 more of the men and then advanced on Naruto's aggressor. He was once again cut off from the man as 3 more ninja joined the fray. Kakashi tried to keep Naruto in his sight, but these men were making it impossible. Naruto stirred to the sound of fighting. Struggling to sit up, he cried out with pain as something that felt like a foot rammed into him, and then cried out again as he impacted with a tree. "Kit, are you okay? You're getting more wounds on your body. I can barely heal the ones you have," said Kyuubi. She was worried about her Kit's health. In his mind, Naruto replied, "I don't know, can you feed my more of your power? I think we got attacked again and Kakashi seems to have his hands full, so he can't protect me. All my power is going towards healing," Kyuubi snapped. "Well, if I can't defend myself, there is going to be nothing left to heal," said Naruto as he felt another kunai break past his skin and another wave of pain washed over him. Suddenly Kyuubi had a change of heart. These men were hurting her Kit and now they were going to pay. Channeling all her remaining power for Naruto's use, Kyuubi told Naruto to kick their butts. Naruto snapped his eyes open a few seconds before a kunai arched towards his head. Jerking his arm up, he deflecting the weapon and lunged forward with his own weapon, stabbing the man in the throat. He fell to the ground wriggling before laying still. Naruto turned his now red eyes on the other men that were attacking his sensei. Arching his arm, he sent his weapon flying towards one who was about to stab his sensei and watched with satisfaction as the man crumpled under the blow the weapon had dealt. Naruto felt another wave of pain wash over him and felt Kyuubi's power falter. The last thing Naruto saw was Kakashi's astonished face before he fell, face forward onto the ground and blacked out. Kakashi heard a yell and spun toward where he knew Naruto had been, only to see the man who had been attacking the defenseless Naruto lying dead on the ground. Trying to find Naruto proved to be his undoing as Kakashi was suddenly aware of man behind him with a weapon poised to kill him. Strangely enough, the man did not continue his attack but following a loud thump, crashed to the ground. Kakashi stared past the fallen figure to see his student, his eyes red, stare back at him before his turned blue again and rolled upwards, falling face first onto the ground. Kakashi quickly dealt with the remaining ninja who were momentarily stunned their leader's death. They provided little resistance before dying. Kakashi raced to his student and gently turned him over, feeling for a pulse. His heart caught in his throat when he felt none. "Naruto!" Kakashi cried out as he tried to revive the boy. "No, don't die, come on Naruto." Kakashi was using all of his medical knowledge to try to get the boy to breathe again, and as time went by he felt his hope slipping away. Not giving up, Kakashi kept up his attempts for another few minutes, pleading with Naruto to breathe again, and his pleas were answered. Kit, your sensei is having a breakdown. I think he needs you to wake up," Kyuubi said, gently rousing sleeping boy with one of her tails. He spluttered as air coursed through his lungs again. "What the hell?" he murmured. "I broke your power so I could use what was left to keep you alive," Kyuubi explained to the still out of it boy. "Go back and calm your teacher down," she said, gently nudging him away from her cage. Drowsily Naruto went, opening his eyes and coughing up blood as his sensei face filled with joy. "Naruto, you're alive." Kakashi was overjoyed. He had feared that he was going to lose one of his students, and now somehow Naruto was breathing again. Deciding not to question this but instead pulling Naruto into a hug and gently cleaning the blood from his face and rebandaging his wounds. Kakashi once again realized the boy had saved his life twice, now asked him why. What he was not expecting was for Naruto to grin and reply, "As future Hokage, it's my responsibility to protect others." Kakashi gently hit Naruto over the head in a very Sakura-like gesture of affection. Slowly picking Naruto up, he bounded off in the direction of Konoha. Tsunade held her head in her hands. None of the retrieval teams had located Kakashi or Naruto and were now gathered in the courtyard in front of her. Each face held the question of, where do we look now? And to be honest, she had no idea. One team had come across the dead forms of the leader and several other ninja bandits, but no one had seen the boy or his sensei. She glanced at the still forms of Sakura and Sasuke. She had half felt that they would leave again if she said she was calling off the search. As much as she wanted to keep searching, she also knew she needed her ninja elsewhere. About to voice the thoughts in her head, she sensed a familiar presence, and turning her head she watched as Kakashi jumped down from a tree over the fence with Naruto in his arms. Sakura and Sasuke were by his sides in seconds as the older man collapsed but still kept Naruto from hitting the ground. Sasuke took Naruto from Kakashi's arms and Sakura supported their sensei. Tsunade quickly motioned for Sasuke to follow her to the hospital and they both sped off. Sakura helped Kakashi get there more slowly as the rest of the genin and their sensei dispersed. Team 7 waited for nearly 4 hours to hear how Naruto was going, and after what seemed like 10 or more doctors and nurses had come from his room, Tsunade approached the group. She looked tired but had a smile on her face. All three faces turned towards her and brightened at her expression and even more at her words. Naruto will be fine after some rest. I'm not sending you on any missions for a while so all of you can rest properly. She eyed Kakashi's foot as she said this and he just pretended not to notice. Can we go see him? Sakura asked in a meek tone. Tsunade nodded and walked away towards her office. All three ninjas stood and slowly made their way into Naruto's room. They were quiet as they expected him to be sleeping, so they got a huge shock when they saw the bed empty and Naruto sitting on the window ledge. Dobi, what you doing? Sasuke asked. Naruto was so startled that he nearly fell out the window and only the quick movements of Kakashi prevented him from doing so. Geez, Teme. Give me a heart attack, why don't you? Naruto said once Kakashi had set him back on the bed. Naruto, Sakura said in a scolding tone, you're meant to be on bed rest, not windowsill rest. Naruto just poked his tongue out at her. Kakashi said nothing, just leaned against the wall and pulled out his Ichi Paradise book. Although inside he felt a great relief to see his team back together and safe and sound. When do I get out of here? Naruto asked, bouncing around on the bed. Not for about 3 days, said the nurse that was passing by. Naruto scowled in her direction and murmured so quietly that no one else heard him, that's what you think. Kakashi did not like the expression on Naruto's face. He was being far too cooperative. Why was he on that windowsill? Kakashi thought. He definitely had one unpredictable student. I am not staying here. As soon as everyone is gone I'm getting out. I need to get home. Even as he was thinking this his body was rebelling. He felt himself sliding sideways before everything went black. Wonder why the Dobi is so quiet. Hey! Lunging forward Sasuke caught Naruto before he fell of the bed. Kakashi was beside him in seconds, helping he settle the blonde among the sheets, while Sakura ran to find a nurse. Sasuke and Kakashi watched Naruto move restlessly as they waited anxiously for Sakura to return. She came back in shortly, followed by Tsunade, who checked Naruto over. He's fine, just exhausted from the blood loss, she said with a sigh of relief. In fact, you're all looking exhausted. I want you all to go home and get some rest. After looking at Naruto again, Sasuke and Sakura left. Kakashi chose to stay, settling into the guest chair to watch his student. I thought I told everyone, including you, to get some rest? Kakashi shot straight out of his chair and moved into a defensive stance in front of Naruto, until he realized who had spoken. Hokage-sama, you startled me. Kakashi said sheepishly. So I noticed. Tsunade remarked dryly, he's fine. Go home and get some sleep. Seeing he wasn't going to follow her advice, she tried another tack. At least go and get some food. You're no good to your students if you don't eat. Kakashi frowned at this, and at Tsunade's retreating back. Sighing, he left the room and headed to get some food. Naruto slowly regained consciousness and looked around the room. He saw the room was empty and gingerly sat up. He was glad that the room no longer spun. Carefully he climbed out of the bed and made his way to the window, slipping outside into the darkness. Sasuke had walked Sakura home first, and then headed to his own. For some reason he felt a slight protectiveness towards his only remaining teammate. He hoped Naruto was really okay. It was disturbing to see the blonde so vulnerable and weak looking. It was dark so no one could see the worried expression on his face. Man, this is harder than I thought, Naruto cursed as he staggered through the back streets towards his home. What are you doing, Kit? Came Kyuubi's voice. I can only heal your wounds, not your fatigue. I am aware of that. Maybe you should have stayed at the hospital. Kyuubi suggested quietly. I hate that place. I need to get home. Naruto spat venomously. Kyuubi let the matter drop. I wonder if Naruto is awake. Kakashi thought, going back into Naruto's room with a plate of food, only to drop the plate when he saw the empty bed. Shit, where is he? Did someone take him? Panic momentarily overtook Kakashi. Calming himself, he tried to think. Geez, I sounded like Aruka, Aruka. Can someone let me know which spelling it is? Damn, mother hen's gotten to me. Then a realization hit him, that look on his face. The idiot has gone and left on his own. Kakashi smacked himself on the forehead and left the hospital in the direction of Naruto's home. You can do it, Naruto. Just another block and a couple of stairs. Naruto coaxed his tired body into moving again. One step at a time. Naruto was breathing heavily now. This is a good workout. He joked inwardly. Kit, this is not funny. Kyuubi was worried her kid was going to end up worse than he was. Kyuubi sent him some of her chakra to boost his strength. Thanks, Kyuubi, Naruto said, trudging forward again. So absorbed in persuading his body to keep going, Naruto didn't even notice when he reached his apartment building. In agony, he made his way up the stairs and into his home. He stared in misery at the scene before him. Kakashi quickened his speed. In the condition Naruto was in, Kakashi wasn't even sure if Naruto would make it back to his place. I wonder why he wouldn't stay at the hospital. Kakashi was glancing around, checking to make sure Naruto was not lying unconscious somewhere on the ground. He made it to Naruto's apartment building in record time. Sprinting up the stairs, he stopped dead in shock. Naruto was sitting on the floor picking up pieces of what looked like it used to be a coffee table. Naruto's hands were shaking for exertion and he appeared to be struggling to stay awake. Naruto, what happened here? Are you okay? As Kakashi stepped into the room, he was horrified at the state it was in. Naruto, either too tired or simply didn't care what Kakashi was going to think, replied, I was away too long, so they came to visit. Who? Naruto, did they hurt you? Kakashi had reached his student's side and laid a hand on Naruto's shoulder, crouching down beside him. Naruto kept cleaning, his movements becoming slower and shakier. I wasn't here. Kakashi sighed with relief at this. The villagers sometimes get bored, so they come over here to trash the demon's place. There was no emotion whatsoever in his voice. Kakashi moved to crouch in front of Naruto, grabbing the blonde's shaking hands, forcing him to stop cleaning and look Naruto in the eyes. Why didn't you tell me? Tell someone? Kakashi was devastated that he was unaware of what had been happening. Naruto, you need to rest, he said when Naruto didn't answer him. Naruto nodded and leaned on the overturned couch in an attempt to stand. Kakashi went to help him but was shrugged off as Naruto staggered upright. He stumbled towards a door that was hanging off its hinges. Kakashi strode forward to grab it before it fell. Naruto simply looked at him with confused eyes. Why are you here? Kakashi murmured something while staring over Naruto's head. Naruto turned and walked unsteadily to the bed. The mattress had been shredded, but his blanket wasn't damaged and his clothes could be salvaged. I hope they didn't find my stash, Naruto thought sleepily. He was too tired to check, and thinking of all the cleaning he would have to do tomorrow only made it worse. Staring pointedly at his sensei, who was still standing in the doorway with a range of expressions flowing across his face, he said with as much force as he could muster while being close to passing out, "You can go home now. Thank you for stopping by, Kakashi-sensei." Kakashi stared incredulously at him. He's acting like this doesn't affect him. Get some rest, Naruto, don't worry about training tomorrow. He watched as Naruto crawled under the small pitiful excuse for a blanket and finally gave into sleep. Kakashi took one more look at the sleeping blonde and around the small bedroom before going back into the other room. Scanning the room, he moved to finish the cleaning Naruto had started. Oh my god, what happened? Kakashi looked up to see Sakura and Sasuke standing in the doorway. Why are they here? How do they know where he lives? Kakashi wondered. He had only known where Naruto lived but had never been inside, and by the looks of it neither had they. What happened here? Sasuke asking, repeating Sakura's original question. Apparently the villagers do this when he's not around. Kakashi struggled to keep the anger out of his voice. Why would they do that? Sakura asked. Kakashi ignored her question. As Naruto's teammates, they knew about Kyuubi and accepted it easily. They could not understand that most others did not. All they knew was they weren't allowed to tell anyone else. Why are you two here? Neither of us could sleep, so we went back to the hospital, Sasuke said. Kakashi could have sworn he saw a small flicker of embarrassment cross his face. Tsunade said Naruto was gone and asked us to go see if he made it home. She told us where he lives. Sakura frowned at her surroundings. Come to have more fun? A voice behind them said, just don't damage the actual apartment. His junk is okay. The man who could only be the owner of the building froze when 3 glares were aimed his way. What do you know of what happened here? Kakashi growled threateningly. Some men from the village come here and trash the place. They do it every time the demon goes away. The man smiled gleefully, and then I can charge it to repair the damage and raise the rent. He didn't get to keep gloating as Sakura punched him in the face, sending him crashing into the wall opposite Naruto's door. Sasuke and Kakashi stared at her. Sakura shrugged and moved to right the couch. Kakashi watched and helped as Sasuke and Sakura went about cleaning Naruto's apartment. The more they cleaned up what was broken, the more they noticed that Naruto didn't own much. It was when they were almost done that Sasuke noticed that the room was lit by candles. What's with the candles? Sakura frowned and tried the switch near the door. Nothing happened. He doesn't have power? Walking in the bathroom, Sasuke tried the shower. Cold water only. He called out softly. Kakashi grabbed a candle and went into the kitchen, followed by Sasuke and Sakura. Sakura searched his cupboards, feeling guilty. How could we not notice? She whispered. Dobi's got some questions to answer when he wakes up. Sasuke said, scowling. There wasn't even a fridge in the poorly stocked room. They moved back into the lounge room and sat among the debris, content to wait. Naruto carefully untangled himself from his blanket, not wanting to make any noise. He could sense that there were others in his apartment, and he had a fair idea of who it could be. Creeping slowly out of his room, he was relieved to find he did not ache anymore. Thank you, Kyuubi, Naruto whispered. When he went into his lounge room, he was surprised to see it was reasonably clean. Seeing Sakura sprawled on his couch and Sasuke and Kakashi sitting on the floor leaning on the couch, all 3 asleep, he grinned. They all looked so peaceful. Seems almost ashamed to wake them. Almost. Good morning, Naruto bellowed. Ag! All 3 yelled, jumping up and landing on their feet, kunai poised and ready to throw. Eek! Naruto screeched, lunging into his bathroom in case they decided to throw them. I surrender. He squeaked. Naruto, you idiot, we could have killed you. Sakura fumed. She was not pleased at being woken that way. Nah, you guys wouldn't hurt me, you're too good for that. Grinning, Naruto emerged from his bathroom. Not one to beat around the bush, Sasuke was about to ask Naruto what the hell was going on when Naruto spoke again. You guys want something for breakfast? Naruto, you can't even feed yourself, let alone us. Dobi, your cupboards are empty. You want through my cupboards? How rude. Still grinning, Naruto went over to the wall behind the couch. After running through a few hand seals, part of the wall disappeared. The hidden section contained weapons, food and clothing, although none in big amounts. Well, wasn't expecting that, Kakashi said while Sakura gaped and Sasuke stared, his expression blank. Naruto laughed. So you want some ramen? I don't like hospitals. Have you ever known me to stay in the hospital unless I'm knocked out? It was true. Now that they thought about it, he never did stay very long. Still, Naruto, you were badly injured. Are you sure you're okay? Kakashi asked, watching his student with a twinge of guilt. I'm all good. By now Naruto had heated up enough ramen and was grabbing the few eating utensils he had. They are clean. I heat water to wash them, he said when he noticed them slyly checking for dirt. They all looked embarrassed. Why don't you have power? Kakashi asked once his face was hidden behind a jutsu. Can't remember the illusion jutsu name, help me out please. Can't afford it, he replied, seemingly unaffected. Dobi, this is the slums, you should be able to afford power. Not after rent and replacing what people break, plus there's food and paying for water usage. Kakashi blinked as his student listed his expenses while slurping his ramen. Are we training today? Naruto asked with his usual enthusiasm. The Hokage-sama has taken us off missions for a while. Naruto frowned then grinned. More time for training. Let's go. He jumped up. Naruto, this is no training today. You need to rest, Kakashi said firmly. Kakashi-sensei, I am fine. Naruto's words didn't hold much weight when he tripped off the edge of the couch, slamming his face into the ground. His teammates rushed to help him. Kakashi gently rolled Naruto over while Sakura went to find some cloth to clean the blood leaking from Naruto's nose. OWW. He moaned. Opening his eyes, he stared straight up into the worried face of Kakashi and the scowling face of Sasuke. That was stupid, Baka, Sasuke said. Naruto glared at Sasuke before trying to sit up, Kakashi's gentle hand supporting him. Naruto glanced at the blood on his floor before raising a hand to his nose. Groaning, he choked on some of the blood that coated his throat. Soothing hands rubbed circles on his back. This is weird, he thought, people don't normally help me. These are your friends Kid and your teammates. They are supposed to be there for you. Naruto felt a glass resting on his lip before cold water trickled down his throat. Kakashi watched as his student coughed and spluttered as the water Sakura had brought helped clean the blood from his throat, his hands still holding the blonde upright. Kakashi, Sasuke and Sakura all just stared when Naruto asked his question, "Can we go train now?" "No Naruto, you are going to rest before you hurt yourself even more," Kakashi said, glaring at his student. Sasuke and Sakura chose this moment to leave, saying that they would be back to visit tomorrow. Sakura also stopped briefly to warn Naruto that he had better rest, or else. Naruto fled into his room at this and dived under his blanket, mock shaking. Kakashi smiled at his antics before repeating Sakura's words and walking out of the house. He had to go have a talk with the Hokage. Naruto sighed. Now what am I going to do all day? Get some rest Kid. You don't have all your strength back yet. Grumbling to himself, Naruto tried to sleep but couldn't. My body can't sleep when it's normally training. Naruto complained to Kyuubi. So go somewhere. Just don't train. I don't think your body can handle that much stress yet. Scowling, Naruto walked out of his house and in a random direction. Tsunade looked up when she sensed Kakashi enter her office. How's Naruto? She asked. Eager to train and go on more missions. Kakashi said, watching her intently. Why doesn't he like hospitals? I don't know. He's always hated them. I guess because at first they refused to treat him. Kakashi looked downright pissed at this. He didn't need to ask the next question on his mind. It's because of Kyuubi. They used to feel that if they died then they would be doing their village a service. You know, killing the demon. Kakashi looked ready to smash heads. Why the change of hearts? He asked. I may have said a few things. Tsunade smirked. Some villagers trashed his place while we were gone. Tsunade sighed. You knew about this? Why haven't you done something about it? Kakashi knew it was not wise to question the Hokage, but when it came to members of his team he was kind of touchy. I didn't want her help. Both Tsunade and Kakashi looked up, startled to see Naruto crouched in the window. Why Naruto? Why don't you want help? Kakashi asked, trying to understand. Because if I respond to what they do, then in their eyes I'll be proving them correct. Naruto said with perfect logic. I've never seen him display such intellect thinking. Kakashi thought. Naruto, this isn't fair what they are doing. Can't you see that it's wrong? It may be wrong, but I've sworn to defend this village and the people in it. If I go dobbing them in for doing what they think is for the greater good of the village, then I'm not keeping my oath. Naruto looked pleadingly at his teacher, silently begging him to understand. Kakashi stared at Naruto while Tsunade watched the two of them. She hoped Kakashi would talk some sense into the Gaki. When I find out who has tormented him all these years, I'll smash their skulls in. I can't just let this go, Naruto. Kakashi said, meeting Naruto's unusually serious gaze. Have you ever been in your house when they've come to visit? Yes. Tsunade answered before Naruto could cover it up. He's been in here several times after Iruka found him beaten unconscious. Kakashi looked horrified while Naruto scowled at Tsunade. How could I not know this? Why didn't I see? The pain he must been. Kakashi's guilt was multiplying by the second. Naruto, I can't allow this to continue, he said, finally speaking. Naruto shifted his scowling gaze off Tsunade and onto Kakashi. It's my life. You are my student. It's my job to ensure your safety as best I can. Lately I haven't been doing a good job. Naruto looked confused and Tsunade was watching the exchange with open amusement. Just how are you going to fix it? Naruto said, plonking himself on Tsunade's desk, looking at his sensei carefully. Obviously this behavior can't be allowed from the villagers. Tsunade shook her head, interrupting his train of thought. Even the elders would be out there attacking Naruto if it weren't for me and the previous Hokage. If we punish the villagers, then the elders will see it as favoritism. Tsunade looked at Kakashi seriously. I can't afford to live anywhere else and they would just trash that place anyway. I can't live with someone else as I'd put them in danger. Naruto said all this bluntly, he then grinned, don't worry Kakashi-sensei, this is just part of my life. God, this kid is more annoying when he makes sense. Kakashi racked his brain for an answer to this problem. Come stay with me, he said as the thought entered his head. Naruto and Tsunade looked at Kakashi as though he had grown another head. Sensei, I know you pretend to be deaf sometimes, but I know you heard what I just said. I heard and I ignored, just like you do most of the time. Kakashi was smiling under his mask. Naruto glared at him. Naruto? Tsunade asked. She liked the idea, but it was Naruto's choice. I'm not taking no for an answer. Kakashi said, determined to protect his student. Absolutely not. I will not put anyone else in danger. Naruto. The answer is no. I'll see you at training tomorrow. Naruto went back out the way he came, gone before Kakashi could protest. Tsunade was laughing. Kakashi looked at her. 1. You haven't had your book out yet. Even Kakashi looked shocked. 2. You have your work cut out for you if you're going to convince him to move in with you. Kakashi sighed and set off towards the training grounds. He had a feeling that that would be where Naruto was. Kid, what are you doing? Training. I can't just sit around all day. Naruto said, stretching his muscles. Your chakra can't handle being used right now. Fine. I'll just run a few laps. Naruto said, stripping off his jacket. By a few you mean 20 or 30. Kyuubi said dryly. She was no pushover. Naruto ignored her and started his jog. How did I know he was going to be here? Kakashi thought as he watched Naruto increase his jog to a run, lapping the training ground. Hyperactive knuckled head, he murmured, dropping onto the ground right in front of Naruto, who ran right into him. Kakashi again noticed how light the boy was. Sorry, Kakashi-sensei didn't see you. Naruto looked guilty. I'm in for it now. I thought you were supposed to be resting today? Naruto flashed a cheeky grin. I am. See, no chakra. Kakashi slapped himself mentally. Why won't you move in with me? He asked while preventing Naruto from resuming his laps. We've been through this, Kakashi-sensei. Naruto said, clearly frustrated by his sensei's persistence. Naruto, we are in danger every time we go on a mission. Being in danger is part of being a ninja. Kakashi stepped in front of Naruto again, looking him in the eyes. Sensei, I can't. I just can't put someone in danger. Naruto said, shaking his head. Kakashi could see his resolve weakening. He had a sudden idea. What if I move in with you then? Naruto's head snapped up. No. Kakashi's guilt multiplied again. His student looked so defeated. Fine, I'll move in with you. Kakashi felt a small bit of fear when Naruto's head came up again, supporting a mischievous smile. But you will regret it. Kakashi followed his student back to his place, stopping short outside the apartment when he saw the words scribbled over the walls. Monster, demon, murderer, fake, masquerade, die. Kakashi watched Naruto walk into his apartment, his body shaking but his face free of tears. Naruto once again performed the hand seals required to open his wall and grabbed his backpack. He threw in the other jumpsuit he owned along with his ramen supply and weaponry. Underwear goes without saying. Naruto also pulled a small photo off the shelf and placed it gently in the bag as well. A small book followed it. He silently walked out past Kakashi, so unlike the boy he knew. Kakashi caught up with Naruto swiftly and asked how he knew which direction to go. I know where most people live, so I know where to avoid. Kakashi was ashamed that his student had to avoid some areas of the village. Hurry up, sensei, or I won't share my ramen, came Naruto's voice from further ahead. His next sentence was cut off midway as he flung himself backwards, narrowly avoiding the dozen or so kitchen knives that had been tossed out of someone's window. More knives came out of the top floor window. Kakashi rushed forward, tackling Naruto out of the way. Cursing himself for not paying attention, Kakashi hunted for the window out of which the knives had been flung. Don't bother, sensei, Naruto said, hauling himself to his feet. Kakashi turned angrily towards Naruto, but his harsh words died at his expression. It plainly said, it wouldn't matter anyway. Kakashi then just decided to grab Naruto and teleport to his home. Kakashi stood nervously as Naruto glanced at the room around him. Kakashi-sensei, where is your bathroom, and has it got disinfectant and bandages in it? First door on your left down that hall, and yes, why? Because I need to get this knife out and clean the wound. Kakashi was in shock. Why didn't you say something? Naruto was surprised. Why would I? Sorry, I'm bleeding on your floor. He took off towards the bathroom. Kakashi shook his head and followed. This kid. He's bleeding and he's worried about my floor, sheesh. Stepping into the bathroom, he watched as Naruto ripped the knife out of his calf. Exasperated, Kakashi moved forwards and grabbed the bottle of disinfectant and cloth from his hand. "I don't think you're supposed to just rip it out," he said scoldingly. Kakashi gently swiped the cloth over the leg wound. Naruto didn't even cringe when Kakashi tightly wrapped a bandage around his leg. He just sat there shocked. All done. Naruto immediately stood and reached for a new cloth which he wet and went back into the lounge room where he knelt slowly and started scrubbing the blood-stained floor. "Clean freak much?" Kakashi said watching him. "I make a mess, I clean it up." Surprisingly, the blood came out easily and Naruto was soon done. Standing up, he grinned. "Naruto, why did you look so stunned when I helped you with the wound back there? People just don't help me, ever." Kakashi then remembered the first mission his team had taken outside of Konoha where Naruto had been injured and had flinched when he had bandaged the wound. He had first assumed it was because it had hurt, but now. "The first mission we went on where you were hurt, you flinched when I bandaged your hand." "Why? I thought you were going to hurt me." Kakashi was stunned. "I wouldn't hurt you. Trust me, there are few people I'd trust in this world." Kakashi looked sad and Naruto grinned. "You became one of those people on that mission, but sometimes old habits surface." Kakashi still looked sad but gratified all the same. Naruto grinned widely. "So I'm here. What now?" Kakashi picked up Naruto's bag and motioned for Naruto to follow him. They went into a room and Kakashi plonked Naruto's bag on the bed. "You can stay in this room." Naruto stared at the bed. It was twice the size of his and looked very warm. He was sorely tempted to go to bed right then and there. "What?" Kakashi asked, noticing that Naruto was staring at the bed. "It's huge," he replied simply. Kakashi laughed. Naruto was definitely thinking of climbing into bed, his injuries yesterday and training fatigue catching up with him, until Kakashi pointed out he hadn't eaten yet. Kakashi watched as his student prepared ramen for them. Is this all he ever eats? Kakashi thought. They ate in silence and then headed to their rooms. "Kakashi-sensei." Kakashi turned in his doorway, eyebrow raised. "Thank you." Naruto said it so quietly Kakashi barely heard it. He nodded his head in acknowledgement and they both went into their rooms. Kakashi woke early as normal. Just because he arrived late didn't mean he was lazy, and was slightly surprised at the unfamiliar smell wafting in the air, ramen. Kakashi dressed himself and glanced into Naruto's room. The bed was neatly made. "Neat freak," Kakashi muttered. Had Kakashi not known this room so well, he might have missed the small seal drawn on the side of the closet. He's already hidden again, Kakashi thought sadly. Since the room was empty, he wandered to the kitchen expecting to see the boy there. Instead there was a note. "Morning Kakashi-sensei, I'll see you at training. There's ramen in the oven, should be cooked by the time you get to it." CYA. Kakashi shook his head. What could he possibly do at this time of the morning? He took the ramen out of the oven, ate it, and followed the chakra trail left behind by Naruto. "Hey Sasuke-kun, are you going to go see Naruto now?" "Damn, I wanted to see him alone, get some answers." "Yes," he relied shortly. "I was headed there as well so we can go together," she said happily. "Of course you were." Sasuke sighed. They reached Naruto's apartment block in record time. Partly from Sasuke wanting to get there and get some answers, and partly because they had bolted when a group of homeless had wanted to touch the Uchiha prodigy. "Is visiting Naruto why you're up so early?" Sakura asked. "No. Then why are you?" "I'm always up now." Sakura stared at him. "I am never up this early, well apart from today." "Are you guys going to see Naruto-kun?" Sasuke and Sakura turned to face Hinata, who was blushing madly. "He's not there. Never is at this time." Sasuke looked at her suspiciously. "How do you know that?" "They think I'm a stalker." Hinata thought to herself. "When I job I see him training every morning." "What's wrong?" "Naruto was injured on a mission." Sasuke said. "He's fine, out of hospital and all." Sakura hurried to reassure a swaying Hinata. W. When W. Was Naruto-kun her, RT. 2 days ago. Hinata visibly brightened at this. "Oh, that's okay then." Sasuke and Sakura stared at her. "I saw him training yesterday before Kakashi-san turned up, and I saw him training today," she said happily before continuing her run. "Dobi," Sasuke said as they changed direction, heading for the training grounds. Kakashi watched as Naruto once again ran laps of the training field after doing 100 push-ups. Sasuke and Sakura arrived just as he completed 100 laps. The speed in which he did them would have made Guy and Lee proud. Sakura's mouth dropped when Naruto stripped of his jacket and top and started sit-ups. If you ignored how skinny he was and looked past the protruding bones, then his body was a feast. Even without any meat on his bones, Naruto's muscles were solid and flexed with every move. No wonder Hinata passes out whenever she gets close. Wait, has she seen him topless? Sakura found the thought rather irritating. Kakashi had noticed the arrival of his other students and decided that since everyone was there they may as well start training. Sasuke and Sakura started to turn when they felt the presence behind them, but a solid push sent them tumbling into the clearing. Kakashi stepped out after them. Naruto was on his feet in seconds, hands raised defensively. He relaxed when he saw his teammates, mouth dropping open when he saw Kakashi was there as well. You're early, really early. So are you. He's always here training at this time. Sakura said, surprised that Kakashi of all people was unaware of this. How do you know? Naruto asked. Hinata told us. Sasuke said, trying to prevent himself from hitting Sakura, who was slyly eyeing Naruto's torso. Oh, that explains it. Kakashi looked confused, thinking Hinata was stalking Naruto. She jogs by every morning. Naruto explained. He grabbed his top and shrugged it on, followed by his jacket. Sakura caught herself before she pouted. What are we doing in training today, sensei? Sasuke asked, glaring at Sakura. Training was hard to say the least. Kakashi had the tree walking, then water walking, and then sparring. Sasuke versus Naruto. Sakura versus Kakashi. Kakashi and Sakura worked on Sakura's taijutsu with a slight modification. Everything they did was enhanced by chakra. Loud crashes could be heard whenever Sakura missed Kakashi and hit some poor unsuspecting tree, or when Sakura was setting into a tree by Kakashi. Sasuke and Naruto were sparring further away. Sasuke was going easy on Naruto at first, watching his teammate for any signs of his injuries. Since there was none, he picked up the pace, forcing Naruto to do the same. They continued sparring using all of their techniques, but their most powerful ones. A loud rumbling caught their attention mid-attack. Springing apart, they barely moved before a tree slammed down where they had been standing. Are you guys okay? Kakashi said, landing on the tree. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Sakura attached herself to Sasuke, and then dragging him over the tree, attached herself to Naruto as well. Naruto was in heaven. Hello? Any injuries? Kakashi asked again, half worried, half amused. None, Naruto said, enjoying Sakura's attachment. Sasuke? None, Sasuke said before letting out a startled oomph and falling forwards. Sakura's grip was all that kept him standing. What the? Kakashi looked for an attacker and saw not one but over 20. Shit, cursed Naruto. This is not good, Sakura said. All of them were tired and Sasuke was unconscious. Kakashi quickly summoned his nin dogs, sending them to find the Hokage and various other people whom could come to their aid. Naruto, stay near Sasuke, Sakura near me, Kakashi ordered, pushing up his headband. Hi, state your business here, Kakashi called, and the answer he received was in the form of a shuriken. Kakashi and Sakura rushed forward, throwing a few of their own shuriken ahead of them. They were soon surrounded and fighting hard, already supporting a few wounds. Naruto summoned 20 shadow clones and sent them into the fray while he remained beside the unconscious Sasuke. If all of us were at full strength we could take them easily, but I'm still weak from the last mission and training, and so is everyone else. Naruto thought, wincing as a shuriken grazed the side of his head. Naruto picked Sasuke up and dove sidewards, away from 30 or so kunai. Damn, he swore loudly. Sensei. Kakashi blocked all 5 shuriken but not the kunai that slammed into his leg. He half fell awkwardly before standing again, just in time to see Sakura go down with a small dagger in her neck and 6 attackers swarm her. Sakura. He lunged towards the group only to be cut off by 10 others. Where is that help? Shit, I have to get to Sakura. I hope Naruto and Sasuke are okay. Naruto saw Sakura go down and Kakashi get swarmed, and felt his anger and desperation rise. Sasuke, come on, wake up, he screamed. Still carrying Sasuke, Naruto was having a hard time dodging all the attacks and was now bleeding from several places. Finally losing his temper, Naruto tapped into what was left of his chakra and sent out 50 shadow clones, forcing back Sakura's attackers and dragging her to him. His clones were soon destroyed and he was now drawing on Kyuubi's chakra, calling out another 50 clones and pulling Kakashi back to him as well. His clones formed a defensive line between them and the attackers. Naruto was constantly summoning more clones with Kyuubi's chakra and was now on his knees, Kakashi standing defensively beside him. "Hang on Naruto. Someone should be here soon." Kakashi was worried. Sasuke was still unconscious. One of Naruto's clones was pressing down tight on Sakura's neck wound that was still bleeding furiously, and he knew that using Kyuubi's chakra could damage Naruto depending on how far he went. So far he only had his cloak up and that alone was drawing blood from his wounds. "Sensei, if I go any further I will have to use more chakra." Naruto's eyes were flashing red. Before Kakashi could answer, a kunai came through the mass of clones, luckily hitting him handle first, smashed into his temple and Kakashi collapsed. Naruto felt his temper reach the breaking point. He kept a tight grip on his emotions and Kyuubi's chakra, not wanting to use it as his clones would disappear and Sakura would bleed to death. Confused as of what he should do, Naruto felt a few small pricks of pain as several darts found their way to his neck. The last thing he saw was a swarm of bugs. "No, damn it." Tsunade slammed her fist into the wall beside Kakashi's hospital bed. "Tsunade-sama?" Shizune asked quietly. "All 4 of them, Shizune. I should have got there quicker. We got there as soon as we could. Shino and Kiba only just got there before we did. There was nothing we could do. 2 of them poisoned. 1 nearly died from blood loss and the 4th with severe skull fractures. They all nearly died and we've learned nothing from the ninjas' corpses. None of the attacking ninja had survived once Shino and Kiba had arrived, followed by Tsunade and Shizune. None had liked seeing Team 7 in that condition and had had no mercy on their attackers. Shizune did what she could to calm Tsunade down, going so far as to slap her. Tsunade then spent most of her time there, guarding and watching the 4 herself. So it was no surprise that she was there 3 days later when the first of the 4 woke up. Kakashi groaned and tried to open his eyes. They wouldn't budge. "Kakashi, can you hear me?" He felt chakra enter his body. Doubling his efforts, he forced his eyes open a bit, allowing him to see Tsunade's relief-filled face smiling at him. His throat was raw from no use and his voice came out raspy and slightly slurred. "How long?" Tsunade understood his half easily. "All of you have been unconscious for 4 and a bit days." "All of us?" Kakashi thought before shooting up into a sitting position, startling Tsunade and making his own head spin. "Kakashi, it's all right, they're all alive." Kakashi's eyes flew round the room, settling on each of his students in turn before his mind jumped to what she had said. "But," Tsunade handed him a glass of water which he struggled to swallow. "They are alive but," taking a deep breath, she launched into descriptions of their conditions. "Sakura suffered severe blood loss. When she will wake up is unknown, but within the next few days hopefully. The wound she received should have made her lose a lot more blood than she did. She should be dead." Naruto had a clone apply pressure after his clones pulled her out of the fight. "That explains it. Sasuke wasn't as damaged as you 3 physically, but what knocked him out was a poison dart. Lethal unless treated. We've treated him and he should be waking up sometime soon." Kakashi explained that Sasuke was hit by something before the fight began and that Naruto had guarded him while Sakura and he fought. Tsunade's gaze flicked to Naruto. "And Naruto?" Kakashi prodded. "A lot of cuts which I presume he got while defending Sasuke and not being able to dodge properly. Also right before he collapsed, Naruto was drawing on a lot of Kyuubi's chakra which has damaged a lot of his systems as well." Kakashi sensed she was not finished. And he only collapsed because he was hit with 3 of the same darts that Sasuke was hit with. This caused the poison to work a lot faster. Seeing Kakashi's fearful face, she hurried on. "He's all right though. Now. Been through the worst of it." "Worst of it?" Both Sasuke and Naruto went through some extreme convulsions due to the poison. Naruto's was worse because of the amount he got. They're fine now though. Sasuke should wake up soon, but I don't know when Naruto will wake. Kakashi allowed himself a groan and Tsunade explained his own injuries and then left to let him rest. He woke again later and glanced at each of his students again. "You stuffed up again, Kakashi." He berated himself. "Blaming yourself?" Kakashi twitched at Sasuke's statement. "You're awake." Sasuke rolled his eyes. "What happened?" Kakashi hurriedly explained the situation and what had happened, ending with what Tsunade had told him. I missed the fight. Sasuke blinked. That would be correct. Dobi actually protected me. I'm not dead. He sounded surprised. He looked at Sakura and Naruto, feeling slightly guilty that he had been unable to help his friends. When did I start thinking of them as friends? Sasuke gasped as a small unexpected wave of pain washed over him. Sasuke. Kakashi staggered over to him, placing a hand on his shoulder. After effect of the poison, I guess, he said, straightening when the pain was gone. Tsunade came in several hours later and was informed of the pain Sasuke had occasionally got and confirmed it was an after effect of the poison. She also told them that they could both return to their home tomorrow if they wanted to, or they could remain in the hospital for a few more days of observation. Both smirked and agreed that they would require observation. Neither felt like leaving their teammates alone after what had just happened. Why were we attacked? Sasuke asked. From what we can tell, they were the same group that you retrieved the scroll from. Shizune said, walking into the room. Hokage-sama, you were required elsewhere. Tsunade checked over Sakura and Naruto once more before leaving with Shizune. When do you think they'll wake up? Sasuke broke the silence. I dunno. I hope soon. Kakashi said sadly. Naruto got 3 doses of the poison I got? Sasuke asked, his voice strained. Kakashi glanced at him, concerned. Sasuke's face was screwed up in pain. Yes. Sasuke's pain eased and his features returned to normal. He's going to be in agony when he wakes up. The both looked at Naruto's unconscious form. I thought Naruto killed the leader of those ninjas. Sasuke said suddenly. I guess either they wanted revenge or someone took over and wanted to get the scroll back. What was on the scroll anyway? We were so busy with the attack that we never did look at it. We wouldn't. Kakashi never finished his sentence as a nurse came in to check on them. She easily checked Sasuke and Kakashi, ignoring the scowls they sent her. She then checked on Sakura and, glancing at them, tried to leave the room. Check Naruto. Kakashi's voice was dangerously low and killer intent rolled off Sasuke. The nurse hurriedly changed direction and ran a few basic diagnostic jutsu before rushing out of the room. She hardly checked him at all. Sasuke said disbelievingly, how are we supposed to know if he's alright? Apparently this happens a lot with him. Kakashi's voice still held a dangerous note, as if he would like nothing more than to find that nurse and throttle her. Never seen Kakashi-sensei like this before. Sasuke thought, watching his sensei, while his mind ran through all the time he'd watched as Naruto was ignored or picked on. They sat in silence for a while, Sasuke occasionally gasping from a wave of pain. Slowly they both fell asleep, their tired bodies sinking back onto the beds. When Tsunade came in later, she smiled at the two of them and pulled the sheets up to cover them properly before checking on Sakura and Naruto. She sighed when she saw no change, and her anger rose at the hastily scrawled notes on Naruto's chart. It told her nothing of his condition other than he was alive. Looks like these fools need a reminder as to why they are here. She grinned maliciously as she wandered off to gather he nurses and give them a lecture. Another day passed without any change in Sakura's or Naruto's condition. Sakura's family had been and had tried to have Sakura transferred to another room but were flat out refused by Tsunade and received fierce glares from the two conscious people in the room. Her father remained only a short while before glaring at Naruto and following his family out of the hospital. It was later that day that Sakura woke up, startling Kakashi and Sasuke out of their brooding thoughts. Where am I? She said, sitting up and wincing, raising a hand to her neck. OWW. Kakashi was beside her side, stopping her hand from touching the bandage. Don't touch, he said gently, pushing her hand away from her neck. Kakashi-sensei, you're okay. Yep. Kakashi went on to explain everything all over again, only to be interrupted before he started. Sasuke-kun, you're okay too. Sasuke raised a hand in hello and Kakashi went on to explain what had happened. Sakura listened intently the whole way through. We are cursed, she said at the end. Kakashi had perched himself on the corner of her bed while Sasuke was sitting on Naruto's. How do you figure? Sasuke asked. When did I get so talkative? We seem to be continually getting in trouble. She replied. Kakashi chuckled. Seems that Naruto's fortes are wearing off on us. When will he be waking up? Sakura asked. We're not really sure, no one is. Sasuke said. The topic once again turned to the ninjas and their motives before sleep overtook the still weakened Sakura. Kakashi and Sasuke returned to their own beds only to leave them again when they heard a moan from Naruto's bed followed by a gasp and Naruto's body suddenly curling into a ball. Kakashi ran to find Tsunade while Sasuke did his best to help Naruto. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Sasuke was at a loss as to what to do. Cursing his lack of knowledge, Sasuke pulled Naruto over to him where he gently held the boy while pain convulsed his body. Just as Naruto was starting to relax again, Tsunade came running into the room followed closely by Kakashi, Haruka and Shizune. They all stopped to stare at Sasuke holding Naruto, who merely looked back at them, a panicked expression on his face. Tsunade immediately rushed forward to check on Naruto. That really hurt. Naruto gasped to Kyuubi. I know, kid. You got a huge dose of poison. You were treated, but this is an after effect. I'm sorry I can't help ease the pain more, Kyuubi said sadly. Naruto felt Tsunade's chakra enter his body and blocked it. Blinking, he looked around him only to nearly pass out again when Tsunade yelled him. Will you stop blocking my chakra? He simply gave her a tired grin before looking at the faces around him. Sasuke, you're not dead. I noticed. Naruto rolled his eyes. Where is Sakura? Naruto asked, his eyes wide. Kakashi stepped sideways, allowing Naruto to see his pink-haired friend. Phew. He breathed, watching as Sakura's eyes fluttered open. Hey Sakura-chan, he yelled before his face contorted with pain and he let out a strangled groan, his body once again convulsing. Naruto. Sakura cried, leaving her bed to stand beside him. Sasuke grabbed her before her legs gave out. Haruka held Naruto, this time rubbing his hand in small circles on Naruto's back. Finally Naruto collapsed back on the bed. Ouch. Tsunade was faced with 4 pairs of distressed eyes. Can't you give him something? Haruka asked. Tsunade explained that nothing more could be done. Like Sasuke, he would have to bear it. Tsunade herself looked upset and Shizune would have preferred for her to get some rest, but there were other matters to attend to. She smiled apologetically at the others in the room before ushering the Hokage out of the room. Everyone turned their attention back to Naruto, who just grinned up at them. What? Sasuke smirked and made his way back to his own bed, wincing when a wave of pain hit him. Sasuke? Naruto asked, concerned. I'm fine, he growled in response. Kakashi helped Sakura back to her bed and then sat on his own, staring at Naruto, who was just looking out the window. Kakashi waited until he was sure Sasuke and Sakura had gone to sleep before saying, Please don't tell me you're thinking of leaving the hospital? Naruto turned his head towards Kakashi before offering him a grin. Not yet, but soon. Why? We are here, we will make sure you. Naruto. Kakashi rushed off his bed to Naruto's side, holding the blonde as his body convulsed. He noticed Naruto clenching his teeth so as not to call out. Kakashi offered words of comfort and continued to hold his student when he passed out from the pain. Why can't you just accept help once in a while? He thought, slipping back to his own bed. The 4 slept soundly save for Naruto waking up in agonizing pain. Each time he kept quiet, waiting for it to subside before his body relaxed and sleep took him. Sasuke woke first the next morning. Stretching gently, he was relieved when no pain shot through his limbs. Glancing at Naruto's bed, he gasped and quickly sat fully upright. Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi was awake in seconds, pulling a weapon from some unseen place. He followed Sasuke's gaze to an empty bed. Naruto. Kakashi was by the bed, summoning Pakun. Follow Naruto's scent and tell me where it goes, he ordered. Why aren't we going? Sasuke demanded. Because it is likely that Naruto just left on his own. He doesn't like hospitals. Sasuke looked thoroughly annoyed. He wanted to follow his friend and knock some sense into him, but he also wanted to ask Kakashi what he meant. The demon's gone? Great. Now my daughter can rest properly. Kakashi and Sasuke turned towards the intruder, angry words forming on their lips, but someone bet them to it. That's enough, Dad. Naruto is my friend and you would do well to refrain from insulting him. Sakura's father eyed her approvingly. You hide your disdain well, daughter. But you may be truthful when it is not around. Be quiet, she yelled. Naruto is a person, not a demon, and I won't have you talk about him like that. Kakashi and Sasuke watched the exchange with open mouths. Both knew from experience that the tone she was using meant she was getting very angry. Apparently she got it from her father. You are a disgrace to our family. How can you defend that thing? Naruto is not a thing. He's a living, breathing human being. How dare you argue with me? Sakura near screamed as her father scruffed her hospital gown. Sasuke gulped, not only at the temperament of Sakura's father or Sakura obviously being unfazed, but also at the slender legs the gown revealed. Kakashi lunged forward just as both Tsunade and Pakun arrived. Tsunade took in the scene and reached Sakura before Kakashi did, sending her father flying across the floor. He hurriedly stood. I don't ever want to see you in my house again. He then stormed out of the room leaving everyone shocked. They all turned to look at Sakura expecting to see tears, but instead there was a smirk. Well, I guess I had better find somewhere to live. Sasuke thought for a moment before stepping forward. Don't bother. The Uchiha mansion has plenty of spare rooms. You can stay in one of those. Now everyone turned to look at Sasuke, who shrugged. Plenty of room, why waste it? Sakura was overwhelmed. Thank you, Sasuke-kun. Tsunade was looking around the room. Where is Naruto? He bolted. Pakun? He made it to your house. Locked himself in the spare room and shut the shades. Tsunade sighed but smiled as well. Kakashi raised his eyebrow. You should be happy, Kakashi. He's decided your house is a safe place, or at least that room is. She looked at all of them. Sasuke, if you'll make sure Sakura doesn't do too much, then all of you can leave. Sasuke nodded and both men left while Sakura dressed. Then they all left, Kakashi making sure they made it home before going to his own. Wandering inside, he made his way to the spare room and knocked on the door. Naruto? Feeling slightly embarrassed, Kakashi pressed his ear to the door and listened. What the hell? Is he? Kakashi's thought was cut off by a thump and several gasps of pain. Naruto? Kakashi tried the door and found it locked. Quickly picking it, he rushed into the room to find Naruto on the floor curled into a ball. Ignoring the flinch he gave when touched, Kakashi pulled Naruto into his arms and held the quivering boy tight. I'm so sorry, Naruto. I failed. I'm sorry. I was supposed to protect you guys. Naruto desperately wanted to reassure his sensei, but for the moment the pain was so great. Kakashi had never felt as powerless as he held Naruto until the pain passed. Albeit reluctantly, Naruto pulled away from his sensei. I fell of the bed. He joked weakly. Naruto, it's not your fault, sensei. You can't hold yourself responsible, nor can you protect us forever. Kakashi looked into Naruto's blue eyes and could see no blame there. When people don't teach me, I still watch and learn. Kakashi cursed himself and sought a more pleasant topic. Want some ramen? He laughed when Naruto's eyes lit up. While Kakashi cooked the ramen, he watched his blonde student out of the corner of his eye. Naruto looked depressed, such a vivid change to his normal state. Kakashi was about to speak when Naruto spoke first. Kakashi-sensei, what should I get Sasuke for his birthday next month? Kakashi couldn't have been more caught off guard. It's ages away. Why look now? He asked, confused. Naruto seemed to ignore the question. What do you do on your birthday, sensei? Kakashi stared at his student, wondering what the hell was going on. My birthday has come and gone. Naruto looked saddened by this. I'm sorry, I was unaware. Kakashi looked to where Naruto's gaze had been centered the whole time, the calendar. On the calendar was the day marked for the celebration of Kyuubi's supposed death. Why the rush? Naruto finally looked at him. For some reason his eyes held a small amount of fear and panic. I just like to get everything done before the celebration so they don't sell out of what I want to get. It was a lie. Naruto knew and Kakashi knew it. Liar, Naruto gave him a half-hearted glare. Fine, when it gets close to Sasuke's birthday they stop selling me stuff. Don't want me to buy something under the guise of a present that could bring harm to him. Naruto's voice held no anger or resentment, just acceptance. Kakashi stared at his student. When else do they refuse to sell you stuff? Oh, every other day, unless Haruka's with me. That's when I get to stock up. Can only get ramen though. Cheap enough to buy a lot of. Anything else he was going to say was cut off as he went into the fetal position to protect himself from the pain which, although lessened, was still quite painful. Kakashi moved to hold his student. Please don't, Naruto cried, cringing away. Kakashi froze at the change in Naruto's tone. Naruto tried desperately to tear himself from the nightmare that was his past as it swarmed his mind, well aware that Kakashi was hearing every plea he made. Please stop, I don't want to see this again. Leave me alone. Naruto flung his arms out. one sending the chair he had been previously occupied crashing to the ground. The other catching Kakashi in the knee, caused him to stumble and bang his head on the table. "Naruto, you're safe," he cried, feeling dizzy and worried. Slowly as the pain dimmed, so did Naruto's shakes. He gazed around him in confusion before it landed on Kakashi's bleeding head. Kakashi watched, shocked, as Naruto backed away, his eyes wide with fear. Naruto never shows his fears. Kakashi waited for his head to clear and hesitantly took a step forward. "I'm so sorry, sensei. Please don't hurt me." Naruto frowned at the look of hurt of Kakashi's face. "What?" he asked, his voice slowly becoming less fear-filled. Kakashi kept walking forward until he reached Naruto. Naruto cautiously reached out a hand and brushed Kakashi's face. "Sensei, you're crying. Did I hurt you that much?" He gently probed the wound only to go extremely tense as Kakashi swept him into a hug. "Naruto, do you honestly believe I would hurt you? I know you've been through a lot, more than I know about, but please trust me. Tell me what's happened. Let me help you." Naruto remained rigid in his arms, unwilling to believe someone was holding him this way, apart from Iruka, and he wasn't being hit. Kakashi continued to hold Naruto, only releasing him when Naruto struggled and seemingly panicked. He watched, saddened, as Naruto left the room quickly. Sighing, Kakashi leaned against the wall and closed his eyes. This was why he nearly jumped out of his skin when something cool was pressed against his cut and his head started pounding. Wincing, Kakashi opened his eyes to stare into the worried face of Naruto. "Naruto?" Kakashi felt weird, as though something wasn't quite right. "Sensei, you don't look so good. Should we go find Ba-chan?" Kakashi grew angry. "Don't act as though just then didn't happen." He instantly regretted his harsh words as Naruto drew back startled. "What do you mean? What just happened? I came in and you were against the wall bleeding from the head." Naruto paused, looking confused. "Come to think of it, why am I here?" Kakashi sat there stunned. You don't remember?" Naruto blinked at his teacher. "Remember what? You moved in after the last mission. Sakura, Sasuke and I found out about your living conditions." Naruto visibly paled. "They know. You know." Naruto looked very close to collapsing. Kakashi hurriedly stood, wincing when the room spun slightly. "I think it would be best that we go see the Hokage-sama," Kakashi said gently, placing a hand on Naruto's shoulder and teleporting them outside her office. He nodded to the ninjas on duty and led Naruto inside. Tsunade looked up when she felt Kakashi's and, a considerably weaker, Naruto's chakra signature appeared outside her office. Moment later they walked in. Naruto looked very confused. "What's wrong? Are you okay, Naruto?" She looked at Kakashi and back to Naruto, who replied, "Apparently I've forgotten a few details he says I'm supposed to know." "Does that make sense?" Tsunade stared at him and then rounded on Kakashi. "What happened? He has another poison attack." Then, "I don't know. He seemed to relive something and was pleading for something to stop. Then he lashed out, sent a chair flying and caught me in the knee. I staggered, hit my head, and then he freaked out because he was afraid I'd hurt him. He was upset that he'd hurt me. I hugged him and he left. He came back in moments later and cleaned my wound. I asked him why he seemed to be ignoring what had just happened and he didn't understand. He can't even remember why he was at my place." Tsunade looked downright shaken. She slowly turned back to Naruto. "What do you remember?" "Joining Team 7, Sakura hugging me, Sasuke and I nearly getting squished by a tree. Kakashi at my house, though. I can't remember why. Ba-chan, I can't seem to get things in order." The pain came once again hit Naruto, although this time he remained standing. With his eyes squeezed shut and his fist clenched tightly, Naruto forced himself to stand tall, ignoring the pain and images that came with it. Taking deep breaths, he waited for the pain to pass. "Are you okay?" Tsunade asked. He nodded. "Why can't I remember things correctly?" "I don't know. I've never seen pain cause someone to forget things." "Do you remember the last mission you were on?" "We were going after some scrolls. I don't remember whether we completed the mission or not. The next thing I remember is Sakura attaching herself to both myself and Sasuke." Kakashi frowned. "That was after the tree almost squished you and Sasuke." Naruto blinked. "I thought it was before." Both Naruto and Kakashi turned to Tsunade. Their expressions clearly said, "What's going on?" Tsunade didn't have a clue but decided to hope for the best. "I'm not really sure what's going on." Tsunade sighed, Naruto, I'm hoping that after the pain diminishes, your memories will sort themselves out. No one asked the question of what if they don't. So why'd I get this sudden burst of pain? Kakashi sighed and went all the way back to their original mission and explained everything up to the current time. Okay, guess I really screwed this time, Ba-chan. You sure did, brat. Just watch what you do and let me know if things get any worse. You're both dismissed. As Kakashi and Naruto left the Hokage Tower, Naruto turned and walked towards his own house. Kakashi restrained him with a hand on his shoulder. Naruto, you're living with me, remember? Oh, Naruto looked guilty. Sorry, old habits die hard. Kakashi flinched at the word die. Kakashi-sensei. Naruto and Kakashi turned in unison towards the voice. Walked to meet them were Sasuke and Sakura. We're going to get breakfast. Do you two want to come? Sakura asked. We? Naruto looked between Sasuke and Sakura, his mouth hanging open. Naruto, it's not like that. I'm staying at his house, so we are getting breakfast. This just made Naruto more confused. Sasuke remembered that Naruto had been absent during the early morning argument. Sakura's father had kicked her out after they had a. Sasuke paused, knowing that if Naruto found out that the argument was about him, then he would feel guilty and probably slip further away from them. Disagreement. We had a disagreement and I would prefer not to discuss it. Sasuke kindly offered me the use of one of his spare rooms. Sakura's tone is perfect and Naruto wisely withheld his other numerous questions. Okay, Sakura-chan, lead the way to food. He shouted. The team soon arrived at a small restaurant and were quickly seated, no doubt to Sasuke being with them. Naruto was glancing about nervously even after their meals were delivered. Naruto's chosen by Sakura since he didn't know what anything on the menu was, and to his disappointment ramen was not included. They dug in and Kakashi watched as Naruto poked at his food. It's almost like he's afraid of being poisoned. Kakashi's eye widened slightly. Grinning, he leaned across from his seat beside Sakura and nicked some of the food off Naruto's plate. Hurry up, Naruto, or I'll eat yours as well. Swallowing quickly, which did not work to his advantage as he choked slightly, causing Naruto to pale. Yum! He gasped and started for another piece only to be fended off by Naruto, as he hoped he would. No one even glanced at them, probably due to the death glares Sasuke was sending anyone who even thought to try. They soon finished their meal, and with a very nervous Naruto, left the restaurant. So are we going to train now? Naruto asked, starting to act more like himself again. All three of his teammates' sweat dropped. After what happened at training last time, you want to go train again? Sakura asked, blinking. We won't be training for a while. Sakura is on light duty and you and Sasuke aren't training until I'm positive you're no longer suffering the after effects of the poison. Both boys went to protest but simultaneously flinched. Sasuke placing a hand on Sakura's shoulder to steady himself, while Naruto fell to one knee. Pain was in both their eyes. Sasuke-kun, Naruto-kun. Sakura cried while she gripped Sasuke's arm. Kakashi gently steadied Naruto. They are getting less painful, Sasuke said after a few deep breaths. Naruto nodded, smiling as he straightened up. Kakashi eyed each one of his students before clapping his hands together gleefully. Alright, all three of you go get some rest. I'm going to go talk to the Hokage for a few seconds. Naruto, I'll see you at home. Sasuke and Sakura looked at Kakashi. I'm staying with Kakashi-sensei for the time being. Kakashi did not like how he phrased that, but he decided not to pursue the answer. They all said their goodbyes and headed to their respective homes. What is it this time, Kakashi? Kakashi bowed, mindful of his place. Do I tell Naruto of the fight between Sakura and her father? He knows they fought, but not what it was about. Tsunade frowned. It will hurt him and he will probably feel guilty, but then again, if he hears about it from the villagers, it will be much worse. I guess it is up to Sakura, but I think he should be told. Kakashi nodded and Tsunade noticed the mischievous look in his eye. What? Would it be possible that for a training exercise we could sneak into the Haruna household and retrieve Sakura's stuff? The Hokage smiled. That seems to be a good idea. After all, a ninja must learn to be stealthy. Kakashi smiled, bowed and removed himself from the Hokage's office. The next day came far too quickly for Kakashi's liking. Groaning, Kakashi roused himself, inhaling the now familiar scent of ramen, and dressed himself. Slowly pulling on his Jonin uniform, putting his mask in place and dispelling the genjutsu he always put in place, Kakashi wandered into his kitchen, expecting to once again find Naruto situated at his table only to find it empty. Sighing, Kakashi ate the ramen Naruto had left and began pondering over how to tell his team that they were going to break into the Haruna household. Naruto lay under a destroyed tree at the training ground, his breaths causing small mist bubbles to float through the morning sky. Eyes closed, Naruto breathed deeply, trying to calm the storm within his mind. Kyuubi, why are all my thoughts mixed up? Tsunade explained to Kid. Kyuubi answered patiently, swirling her tails around Naruto's mindscape. But she wasn't sure. You're in my head, don't you have a better view? Kyuubi smiled as Naruto entered his own mindscape and lay beside on the wet ground. Kyuubi curled her tails around the boy, pulling him closer and holding Naruto until his thoughts settled and sleep overtook his exhausted body. That is until a persistent shaking broke the calm. Ino hummed softly as she walked past the training grounds, happy to be back in civilization after a grueling week-long mission. Yawning and stretching, Ino finally glanced about her surroundings. What she saw stopped her cold. All around her was dented trees and craters. The grass was stained in places with blood. Ino covered her mouth, preventing a scream. Forcing herself to access the damage, Ino guessed that the damage was days old, plus everything had seemed normal within the village. Breathing deeply, Ino once again surveyed the training ground. Her breath hitched when she spotted the familiar orange-covered blonde laying perfectly still beneath a ruined tree. Losing her previously obtained calm, Ino ran towards the figure, falling to her knees beside him. With trembling fingers she checked his pulse, gasping at how slow it was. Naruto! Ino cried, shaking him madly. Naruto groaned inwardly as he forced himself to awake. Blinking slowly, he attempted to clearly see the person shaking him. Ino? He sputtered. Ino jumped back as if she'd been burned. Ino, what's wrong? Did something happen? Are you alright? Ino stared as Naruto threw question after question at her. Abruptly he stopped. Why are you staring at me? Naruto looked at her intently. With a flurry of movement, Naruto reeled from a nose fist hitting his head. You baka. I thought you were dead or hurt. Ino was seething. How dare that blonde idiot do that? Naruto stared sullenly at her for a brief moment before lunging to catch Ino in a quick hug. I knew you cared, he declared with a bright smile. Ino floundered for a moment before smacking him again. Though not hard. Hey, can't have Sakura getting Sasuke-kun all to herself now, can I? Naruto smirked. Well then, Sakura-chan has one up on you since she's living with him, he said gleefully. Ino stared and stared and stared and stared. Her father kicked her out due to a disagreement, he added hastily, sensing an oncoming explosion. Sasuke offered her a room. Ino stared. Ino? Hey Ino. Naruto poked her gently. Huh? Oh sorry Naruto. Naruto looked at her closely. Baka, don't stare, she snapped. Anyway, why are you sleeping in the middle of a destroyed training ground? I was training. You did all this? Her expression held doubt. No, most of this was when we were attacked here a few days ago. Attacked? We all landed in hospital after that, even Kakashi-sensei. I haven't heard anything. Well, it's true. Go ask Kaka-sensei if you don't believe me. I might just do that. And if you were attacked, why were you training? Shouldn't you be resting still? Naruto grinned sheepishly and glanced away, coughing. I've gotta go now. Kakashi-sensei will come looking for me and I don't want to get caught. I don't want to be late. CYA. Hey Naruto, where are you going? I'm not finished with you yet. Ino said, jerking forward to catch his arm. His gaze locked on hers for a second before she retracted her hand quickly. To cover the small blush, Ino snapped. Don't you have any manners? You don't run off halfway through a conversation. Naruto watched stunned as she ranted on and on about being a gentleman. He watched as she paused for a breath and shivered slightly when a chilling breeze drifted across the ground. Smiling, he shrugged of his jacket and draped it over Ino's shoulders before running off, shouting over his shoulder as he went. Thanks for waking me up, Ino. Don't lose my jacket, it's the only one I have. I'll get it off you some other time. Ino blinked as the warmth spread over. His only jacket? That can't be right. Sakura's living with Sasuke-kun. That doesn't mean anything. Naruto could be lying. Where can I find Kakashi-sensei? Ino's thoughts jumped from one thing to another. Deciding to get some answers, Ino set out to find the poor unsuspecting silver-haired Jonin. Ino was acting weird. Kyuubi-chan, Naruto said as he navigated another turn. She was concerned, Kit. When someone sees someone they know lying unconscious in a destroyed area, they naturally assume the worst. Naruto laughed. But it's Ino. She hates me. So did Sakura and Sasuke, but that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. Point. Deep in thought, Naruto paid for his takeaway ramen and turned to leave. Naruto, you alright? Startled Naruto looked up, a grin plastered on his face. Hey, don't interrupt my ramen time. I must focus so as not to miss a second of the god of all food, he declared, looking at his ramen lovingly. The shop owner smiled and offered him another ramen box. On the house for my favorite customer. Thank you. Naruto smiled brightly and bolted to his favorite spot in the whole world. Shaking her head, Ino hesitated briefly in front of Kakashi's door before pounding harshly on the wood. She took no notice of the dents she made, her thoughts so preoccupied. She was knocking so vigorously that when the door swung open she bashed the poor door opener in the face. Her eyes widened as Kakashi fell back a step, one hand clutching his nose, which was bleeding. She could tell since his mask was slowly being stained with blood, the other poised over his weapon pouch. Ino rushed forward, temporarily distracted from the reason she came. Hitaki-san, I'm so sorry. Ino moved to inspect his nose, but Kakashi brushed her hand away. It's Kakashi, Ino. Please have a seat in there. I'll be back in a second. Ino nodded and moved hurriedly to where he gestured. True to his nature, Kakashi was back 1 hour later, and Ino knew that Sakura's complaints about her tardy sensei were not exaggerated. But what could he possibly be doing? Ino thought to herself as Kakashi sat opposite her. What's up? He asked. Ino blushed slightly and glanced at her clenched hands. Kakashi found himself starting to feel uncomfortable in the presence of the female blonde. It's about Naruto. Kakashi barely stopped his visible eye from widening. Instead he calmly replied, Naruto? Ino gazed at him calculatingly. She then sighed. Naruto said you guys were attacked and that Sakura is now living with Sasuke-kun. Kakashi stared at her impassively. It doesn't bother me. I was just wondering if it was true. Ino quickly asserted, I mean, it's not that I think Naruto's a liar. It's just, well, I'd like clarification. Ino finished lamely. Kakashi chuckled inwardly. Yes, Ino, it's all true. As to why Sakura is living with Sasuke, you would have to ask her yourself. Ino nodded dumbly. Ino, where did you speak with Naruto? Oh, at the training grounds. He was lying under this tree and everything was destroyed around him, so I rushed over. I thought he was dead, he was so still. Kakashi started slightly. However, it turned out he was sleeping. She smiled slightly. Who would have thought that Naruto could be so still and quiet? Yes, well, he's not supposed to be training yet, so he probably collapsed. Ino glanced at him questioningly. With another sigh, Kakashi gave Ino a summarized version of their attack and the latest going-ons. So, mission gone wrong. Attack at the training grounds. Poison and its after effects, and Sakura living with Sasuke. Ino counted each thing off on her fingers. Kakashi watched, awaiting an outburst. He received none. Well, as long as she's happy, I guess. I will have to speak with her. Ino grinned happily. Ino, why are you wearing Naruto's jacket? Ino looked up surprised. I'd forgotten. Naruto lent it to me. Said he'd get it off me later. Do you know where he lives? I can drop it off if it's on my way home. Actually, Naruto moved in with me recently. But if Naruto said he would get it off you later, then he will. Naruto lives here? Yes. Oh, I think she may be stranger than Naruto. Kakashi thought quietly. Abruptly Ino stood. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me, Kakashi-san. I'll head home now. Kakashi nodded and followed Ino to the door. After closing it behind her, Kakashi sighed. Now I have to go find a wayward student. Damn blondes making life so complicated. 1 second later he was gone. Iruka smiled as Naruto plonked down beside him and handed him a ramen box. Something wrong, Naruto? He asked, eyeing his frown and eating a few mouthfuls. Naruto looked up, the glum look disappearing. No, nothing's wrong, Iruka-sensei. Iruka was now frowning. Did Kakashi do something? I don't mind if you want to come stay with me. No, sensei. Kaka-sensei has been really nice. Where's your jacket? Naruto smiled. Ino-chan's got it. Iruka blinked. Ino-chan? Oh boy. You're tired, kid, maybe you should go home and rest. Kyuubi said gently. You're not properly healed yet, Naruto. I don't know where you've been today. Oh, why Ino has your jacket, but you do need to rest. Naruto burst out laughing, doubling over when both Iruka and Kyuubi cocked their heads quizzically. I'm sorry Iruka-sensei, but you just said almost the same thing as Kyuubi-chan. Iruka froze, blinked, then choked on his ramen. KY. Kyuubi-chan? Naruto looked up sharply, his gaze defiant. Kyuubi was purring happily, noticed that the chan suffix seemed to be a permanent addition to her name. What? Iruka watched Naruto, taking in his defensive posture and tense muscles. Why do you call the Kyuubi no Kitsune, Kyuubi Zero-chan? He asked gently, his mind in turmoil. Naruto smiled, his gaze wandering. Because Kyuubi-chan is always there for me and I can tell she truly cares. Naruto moved his gaze to Iruka, just like you Iruka-sensei. Iruka smiled slightly. Are you sure she can be trusted? What if the Kyuubi is trying to get you to release the seal? Naruto shook his adamantly. Kyuubi-chan is like my mother Iruka-sensei. When you're not playing the part that is. Iruka promptly looked indignant and lunged at Naruto, resulting in an impromptu wrestling match. Iruka won. You cheated Iruka-sensei. Iruka smiled at the pouting boy. Did not, and what are you going to do about your jacket? I'll get it back when I see Ino next, I guess. Ino's family own a flower shop. You might try there. Oh, Sakura said something about that once. We went past it on our way to see Ba-chan. Naruto, it is rude to call Tsunade-sama old. Kakashi said, stepping out of the bushes to join them on the Yondaime's head, ignoring the small glare Iruka sent him. Naruto stared at his silver-haired sensei wide-eyed. Where did you come from, Kaka-sensei? Well, if you can get up here I'm sure I can as well. Iruka snorted. By the way, Ino came around. Was checking up on something you spoke to her about. Had you jacket too? I told her you would get it off her later. Ino was at your house? Huh, she actually went. Bashed my door in, and my nose. Kakashi added, looking deep in thought. Iruka and Naruto laughed, imagining the scene. Kakashi scowled at them but just received grins in response. Perhaps you should go find her then. Iruka prodded. Naruto nodded and stood slowly, gazing down over the village she lived to protect. Go Naruto. Iruka made shooing motions at him. Naruto smiled briefly and launched himself off the edge, earning himself a start from Kakashi and a chuckle from Iruka. Don't worry, he does that all the time. Kakashi glanced at Iruka, his book once again in his hand. Is there a problem? Iruka asked, frowning at him. Kakashi sighed. Don't even try that with me, Kakashi-san. I'm a teacher. My students try to avoid my questions every day. They don't get away with it and neither will you. Why are you so close to him? Iruka looked surprised but could not muster any anger at the man beside him. I understand him, I guess. I watched him grow. Watched the looks he was given, the attacks he survived. I grew to love him as my own child. You truly are lucky that he is allowing you to help him in such a big way. Kakashi listened, stunned at the sheer emotion that laced the academy teacher's words. He watched as Iruka rose silently and followed the same path Naruto had taken, straight over the edge. Kakashi sat there unmoving, pondering over the words now running through his head. I'm lucky? I've seen the connection between them. And that Iruka considers him a son, a feeling that I'm almost sure Naruto returns. A genin team is supposed to work well together, basically becoming a family. With all that is happening, the recent fights and truths that are coming to the surface, I feel as though my team is finally beginning to be just that. A family. Granted a dysfunctional one. Kakashi stood and walked slowly over to the edge of the monument. Glancing down, he was once again reminded of how far the drop was. Gathering some chakra, he launched himself off the mountain, instantly feeling the rush of adrenaline and the spike of fear. Channeling more of his chakra, Kakashi landed unsteadily on a roof and calmly walked off, book in hand. Naruto sped through the back alleys towards the only flower shop in town, which he now knew belonged to Ino's family. Once he stood outside the back of the shop, he paused. What if she wasn't home? How exactly do you ask for a jacket back? He'd never asked for something back before. So caught up in his own thoughts, he didn't even notice the back door opening and Ino coming through it carrying some garbage. She certainly noticed him and dropped the garbage in surprise, in turn startling Naruto, who spun round and promptly tripped over said rubbish to fall with Ino to the ground in a tangle of limbs. Ino? Naruto lay still, stars dancing in front of his eyes. Naruto, I'm so sorry, geez, I'm saying that a lot lately, I didn't mean to startle you. Ino said, quickly disentangling herself. A few short moments later they both sat opposite each other, panting for air. Hee, I just came to get my jacket back. Oh, of course. Give me a moment to clean this up and we'll go get it. I'll help, he said, grabbing a few items and tossing them into the bin. Ino smiled and together they had the mess cleaned up in no time. Naruto then followed Ino into the shop, and after cleaning up from their tumble, Naruto found himself chatting with her as she served customers. It was just before closing time when Naruto decided it would be best if he got back to Kakashi's place. Ino hurriedly grabbed his jacket and passed it to him with a brief hug. Wouldn't want you to forget it. Naruto rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. Hey, I would not have forgotten. Ino laughed and waved as he ran out the door. Still smiling, she shut up the shop and climbed the stairs to join her parents for tea. Naruto ran quickly through Konoha's alleys, eager to escape the darkness surrounding him. He had no idea why he felt the need to rush, but rushed nonetheless. Relief flooded his features when Kakashi's house came into view, and he hurriedly slid through the door and slammed it shut behind him. A huge grin lit his face as images of his afternoon flashed through his mind. This was the first time he'd ever hung out with someone his own age. None ninja related, of course. I made a friend. Naruto chuckled. What's so funny? Naruto jumped sky high as Kakashi's voice drawled in his ear. To Kakashi's surprise, Naruto, once he was calm, spun towards him and tackled Kakashi in a one-armed hug. I'm so happy I could die. Kakashi's jaw dropped slightly, wondering if his student had hit his head whilst he was training, which reminded him. Sensei, why are you looking at me like that? Kakashi's one eye had gone sharp and was locked on Naruto intently. So you were training this afternoon, him? Naruto held his heads up in a peace gesture. No, I was just at the training grounds, thinking. Kakashi crossed his arms and started in Naruto, his single eye's glare causing Naruto to sweat. Honest Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi held up a hand to silence his protest. Naruto paused and studied his sensei stance. It was tense. Sensei? Suddenly Naruto felt it as well. There were several people outside. Sensei, you know how I said you would regret my living here? Well, here comes the regretting part. Kakashi snorted and wandered to his front door casually. He didn't get the chance to open, however, as he sensed a hostile intent, and both he and Naruto hit the floor as several projectiles smashed through Kakashi's front window. Drunk fools, muttered Kakashi when he recognized and smelt the sake flowing from the smashed bottles on his floor. Sensei, we should leave. Naruto was crouched beside the door frame, well hidden from any windows. Kakashi nodded in acceptance, knowing Naruto would not allow him to go outside, and threatened the mob a bit. I suggest you grab anything that has great value to you, sensei. Naruto's voice was calm and steady, showing just how much experience he had in these scenarios. Kakashi once again nodded. Sensei, you didn't by chance happen to know where I would have placed something unusual in the room you said I could use? Your storage seal is on the side of the closet. Naruto's face showed surprise but was replaced by a grin shortly after. You may want to save any books that are important to you. Kakashi again snorted. They would dare do more than they've already done. Naruto looked at him pointedly. They are drunk. They won't even remember doing what they're doing. With that, Naruto bolted towards the spare room, ducking low to avoid the flying objects and diving in through the doorway and haphazardly collecting the stuff from his seal. Kakashi met him back in the hall just as a cigarette followed a sake bottle through a window. Soon after, the whole floor was covered in flames as the fire spread over it, using the sake as fuel. Shit! Cursed Kakashi as he watched as their exits were blocked by flames. Asuma sighed, listening to Ino complaining to Choji about late-night training sessions. Shikamaru walked slowly beside his friends, eyes closed. Woohoo! Burn demon! Asuma snapped into high alert when the voices reached his ears, as did his team. What's going on? Choji asked, their eyes narrowing when smoke drifted past their noses. As when they leapt forward, soon appearing in front of a small house that was well and truly on fire. Ino gasped when she realized who it belonged to, as did Asuma. Kakashi. Naruto. Asuma spared a glance at Ino, surprised to see that his normally self-concerned student seemed prepared to go into the burning building. Shikamaru, Choji, secure those civilians. Ino, come with me. We need to see if Kakashi and Naruto got out. Asuma added Naruto to the equation since Ino had mentioned him, though he had no idea why Naruto would be there as Kakashi was a private person. Ino nodded and they both pushed forward to search for a safe entry point. Unknown to them, Kakashi and Naruto were searching for a way out full stop. Can't you just teleport us out? Naruto coughed. Kakashi shook his head, his mask offering some resistance to the smoke. I have no idea where everyone is now, so it would be too dangerous. Both jumped back as the fire climbed up the wall beside them. Naruto held a cloth over his mouth, his eyes watering. Perhaps one of the windows? His voice was muffled and slightly hoarse now. Kakashi couldn't hear him and was also starting to have trouble breathing despite his mask. Naruto gestured to the window just as it crashed inwards and a sake bottle smashed between them, exploding in flames and sending the two sprawling. The fresh air only served to further fuel the fire as it spread faster through the house. Thoroughly disorientated, Kakashi crawled to his student. "You alright, Naruto?" he asked loudly. Naruto nodded and struggled into a crouching position, legs braced to shift him at a moment's notice. Though both were now lacking the oxygen needed to force their limbs to work. Shit. Asuma and Ino spun at Shikimaru's curse and neither was able to stop the sake bottle that was thrown through one of the windows. Expressions of horror were mirrored on four faces as flames burst out the window. Ino gulped, tears forming in her eyes. "Sensei!" she screeched and pointed before taking off and leaping through the window, Asuma following closely. Soon Ino found what she had seen before and rushed forward. Both gasped when they saw the half-conscious student and teacher, and they quickly worked to get them back to the window. "Crap, how are we going to get them out?" thought Asuma as he heaved Kakashi up awkwardly. Ino did the same with Naruto, her breath catching when she saw how pale he was. "Sensei, I don't know how to get them out. I can barely lift Naruto." Asuma nodded, he too was struggling to hold his charge up despite the help the man was giving him. Both blinked when Shikimaru and Choji came rushing through the window and flames. With them helping, they soon had their friends outside. Kakashi felt light-headed and his vision was failing. He could barely make out Naruto in front of him and could not find a way to reach him. Had he had the strength, he would have jumped when he felt firm hands grasp him and pull him to his feet. Kakashi offered what help he could, hoping that someone had grabbed Naruto. Kakashi felt his support waver, and however they got, it would be near impossible to get them out. When a second set of hands helped to steady him, Kakashi groaned and collapsed fully, his strength spent. Thinking this was the end, Kakashi was surprised when fresh air hit his face and a voice telling him to breathe. Naruto tried to snuggle further into the warmth that had a hold of his body. Kyuubi's voice had long disappeared and Naruto welcomed the darkness that came with the warmth. He couldn't recall why it was dark, only that it felt nice. He cringed when he felt a familiar chakra force its way past his barriers. Tsunade frowned as her Enbu quickly brought the raging crowd under control, trying her best to ignore the dread swelling up in her chest which constricted painfully when Asuma and Shikimaru came flying out, dragging Kakashi between them, Ino and Choji following closely with Naruto. Shizune and Tsunade immediately began work trying to repair their lungs. "Come on, Kakashi, breath," Shizune ordered. Team 10 nervously hung over the two's shoulders. Tsunade and Shizune worked tirelessly to repair the damage, and when both their patients drew in a breath, a collective sigh went up from those gathered there, and Tsunade ordered them to be taken to the hospital, where she and Shizune set them both up with breathing masks. Sighing, Tsunade closed the door behind her and turned around to face an anxious Team 10. "How are they?" asked Asuma. "Other than a few bad burns and some lung damage, they're both going to be fine." "What happened?" Shizune asked, her gaze encompassing the whole team. "We were going to do a late-night training session." His team gave him foul looks when we heard that mob shouting, and then we smelt the smoke. After which we followed it to the source and it led us to Kakashi's house. I assigned Shikimaru and Choji to control the crowd. Ino and I went in to retrieve Kakashi and Naruto. Hokage-sama, if I may ask, do you know why Naruto was at Kakashi's house in the first place? Ino cleared her throat. He lives with Kakashi-sensei since his house got trashed by a mob of villagers. How do you know that? Tsunade asked sharply while Ino's teammates stared at her. We talked about it when we hung out at the shop today. Ino rolled her eyes. Everyone went still. Choji chalked on his chips and Asuma dropped his cigarette. Tsunade smiled and shook her head. Now she knew why Ino was crying whilst holding Naruto outside the burning house. Okay, what happened next? Shikimaru sighed. Your Anbu turned up and Choji and I also entered the house. From there we aided our teammate and sensei in carrying them outside. You know what happened from there. Whatever else someone could have said was lost when the hospital doors opened with a resounding bang as a very distraught Iruka burst through them. Asuma rose, ready to halt his progress. Where's Naruto? Tsunade gingerly pointed at the room she had just exited. Iruka disappeared. All anyone saw was the door opening and closing and they blinked. Word of warning, Asuma, never get between Iruka and Naruto. Ever. Tsunade stated flatly. Ino, Shikimaru and Choji all nodded their heads. Has anyone informed Sakura and Sasuke yet? Shikimaru asked. Tsunade nodded. I sent one of my Anbus to Sasuke's house. Shikimaru raised an eyebrow. What about Sakura? They live together now. Ino casually said, once again causing silence to descend upon the group. Ino, perhaps we should have you trained as a spy. You gather information incredibly well. Ino blushed. Can I go see Naruto now? Doesn't your team have training to do? Ino looked pleadingly at her sensei, her eyes full of barely restrained tears. Asuma sighed. 5 minutes and don't annoy Iruka-sensei. Ino nodded eagerly and stepped into the room, her tears finally falling when she gazed upon Naruto. Iruka was holding his hand and she quietly stepped up to Naruto's other side and gently brushed a stray strand of hair from his face. Why Iruka-sensei? Why did they do it? Iruka looked up and Ino could see the hurt residing there. Because, Ino, they don't understand. No, they don't want to understand. The villagers refuse to see the raw determination and courage, the bravery and loyalty that belong to a small lonely child. They only see the parts of themselves that they don't want to face, loneliness, bitterness and anger. It would kill them to see what they're doing to a fellow human being. Ino started. Never had she heard her old sensei so angry or depressed. She leaned forward, lips poised above Naruto's forehead. Iruka looked uncomfortable. Ino spoke. Iruka-sensei, Naruto has not been alone for many years. You have no idea how much you mean to Naruto. You gave him his first real reason to keep going and after that he gained his team and now Naruto has me. Ino kissed Naruto's forehead and left the room to train with her team. Iruka smiled and glanced at the boy whose hand he held. You really are like a son to me, Naruto. Iruka stayed by his side the whole night and was there to comfort both Sakura and Sasuke when they stormed in. He sent them back home after an hour of reassuring them that Kakashi and Naruto would be fine. That was a hard task in itself considering both were unconscious and were wearing breathing masks. Iruka was about ready to hit whoever was poking him and he drowsily opened his eyes. As the white walls came into the focus, Iruka jumped awake and followed the poking hand up to the smiling, though confused, face of Naruto. He pointed at his mask and seemed to ask something which the mask muffled. Iruka laughed at the now scowling boy and gently removed the mask. Where's Kakashi? Yo! Both turned to the other bed where Kakashi was sitting up, breathing mask in one hand, the other raised in a wave. How come he can pull his mask off but I have to ask before I remove any medical assistance thingies? Because you tend to rip them off, or out, and generally cause more damage. Naruto looked sheepish and Kakashi laughed. Naruto poked his tongue out at him. Good to see you two awake, said Asuma as he walked into their room. How y'all's feeling? Yes, how are you two feeling? Tsunade asked coming in behind him. Fine, they both answered, though it was obvious they were tired. What happened? I know someone came into my house and pulled us out. Kakashi asked, his gaze fixed on Asuma. My team and I were in the area when we smelt the smoke. We pulled you guys out. That was dangerous, Asuma-senpai. Kakashi remarked. Thank you, Asuma nodded in reply. Tsunade checked them both over and then ordered them to get some more sleep. Naruto's words halted her exit. Was Kakashi-sensei's house destroyed? Unfortunately, although the backpacks you guys had with you at the times were saved. Naruto looked down sadly and mumbled. I'm sorry, sensei. I'm sorry, sensei. The four adults in the room looked at him sharply. Kakashi waved the others out of the room. Silently they all left, though Iruka tried to stay but left when Kakashi locked eyes with him. Naruto. What, sensei? All this proves what I originally said. People around me get hurt. Kakashi snorted. I'm not hurt. My house is gone but my favorite, literature, survived. I have lost nothing. Naruto's eyes remained fixed on his sensei's face. Sensei's gone bonkos Kyuubi, Naruto whispered in his mind. Waving his hands in theatrical movements, Kakashi tried to recapture his student's attention. Oi Naruto, Naruto. Kakashi flicked Naruto on the nose. Naruto started and stared cross-eyed at his nose. That's not nice, sensei. Naruto promptly started trying to flick Kakashi back, which, much like with Iruka, resulted in a one-sided wrestling match. Though it did not last long, with Iruka storming back into the room and basically throwing Naruto back in his bed whilst giving them both a long-winded lecture, leaving Kakashi wondering why his student loved this man so much. Kakashi, are you even listening to me? Kakashi raised his head. Yash, my eternal rival hip attitude still remains strong. We heard of you and your youthful student's misfortune. Despite his loud tone, Kakashi could detect the carefully hidden undertone of worry in Guy's voice. Iruka and Naruto turned their gaze towards the door as Team Guy filed in. Naruto-kun, by the looks of it your fiery spirit and youth still burns brightly. Lee screamed in reaction to Naruto's position, which was sitting upside down on the ceiling after Guy's loud entry. I will do 200 laps of the village to aid you in your recovery. Tenten hit him over then head and Neji scoffed quietly. Hokage-sama has ordered that they get some rest, so I think we should let them be. Iruka was well versed in Team Guy's theatrics and knew they could get very tiring. Ushering them out, Iruka threw smiles to the pair left in the room. Get some rest, both of you. Iruka left. Kakashi blinked. Very mothering, isn't he? Naruto shivered. Don't ever say that to Iruka-sensei's face. I'm just getting used to having you around. Kakashi smiled and lay back on his bed, favorite, literature, in hand. How did you? Never mind. Naruto sighed, collapsed against the pillows and started meditating. Kyuubi? What's up, kid? What now? Kyuubi's chuckle reverberated deep within his mind. Q-chan, you're not helping. Naruto whined. What am I going to do now? Kakashi-sensei's house burnt down. I told him something would happen. I guess now I can go back to my place. Though I don't know what sensei's going to do. I don't think Kakashi's going to let you live on your own, especially after tonight's incident. Naruto growled. I'm very good at surviving on my own. I always have been. Come to think of it, Kakashi still hasn't explained how he got me to move in with him. Well, I'm sure you'll remember in time. Maybe your girlfriend can help you out. She does come from a family who uses mind techniques, does she not? Naruto blushed. She's not my girlfriend. Kyuubi laughed. If she comes into my mind, won't she meet you? Kyuubi blinked. Just seal me away while she's here. A raw anger, so unlike Naruto, flooded his mind. If or when I let anyone into my mind, I will not hide you away. I'm not ashamed of you and I will defend you as if you were my real mother. Naruto spat the words out venomously, though his tone softened at the end. Kyuubi blinked again. The warmth flooding her was something unexpected and new. Naruto-kun, Naruto yawned. Get some rest, kid. Everything will work out. He nodded and slipped out of his mind and into sleep. Kakashi watched Naruto out of the corner of his eye. A frown adorning his face as he saw how still his student got. He's meditating. I wonder what he's thinking about. Kakashi looked at Naruto's bag and then at his own before allowing sleep to take his body and mind, knowing that tomorrow, at the very least, would be difficult and tiring. Sasuke-kun, do you think Naruto-kun and Kaka-sensei are really alright? Sasuke glanced at his current housemate and resigned himself to the fact that somehow his teammates were becoming important to him, like family. Yes, Iruka-sensei said their injuries were not life-threatening. Chances are they're awake already. I hoped so. She chewed her lip. Together they made their way to the hospital, entering the waiting room just in time to interrupt a discussion between Iruka, Team 10, Team Guy and Tsunade. Sasuke strode arrogantly forward, Sakura at his side. Did something happen? Heads jerked in their direction. They're fine. They were awake and aware. Both are just sleeping now, Shizune said. Sakura let out the bread she'd been holding and slipped past those there to enter the room, this time with Sasuke following. She halted on the threshold. Ino, I'm glad you and Naruto are getting along so well. Ino nodded and smiled. Thanks. I'm sorry about your family. Sakura shrugged. It was bound to happen. We never saw eye to eye. Tsunade looked between the two. Maybe I should have you both trained as spies. You certainly can convey information efficiently. They snorted. Gossip. They smiled. Let's catch up late. Give Naruto my regards when he wakes up. Sakura nodded and proceeded into the room. Ino lounged against the wall in between her teammates. Well, continue the fight. It was getting good. Everyone's sweat dropped. Troublesome blondes. Shikimaru sighed. What's to be done with the villages that were in the mob? Guy asked. Yes, not all of them were drunk. Some knew what they were doing. Despite the council's protest, I've sent them to Ibiki. The council can hardly do much more than talk, as it was Kakashi's house that was destroyed. Those civilians will learn to respect the shinobi of this village. The only reason they're not to be executed is because Naruto wouldn't allow it. Is there anything left of Kakashi-san's house to salvage? Haruka asked. Guy shook his head. My team and I checked before coming here. There's nothing left but ashes. They were lucky they got out. Guy answered, his voice so different than normal. Without Asuma and his team they would not have. The fire was completely fed on sake and blazed out of control easily with it as fuel. So where will they be staying? It will take time for Kakashi to find a new house. Haruka cut in, not at all put off by the Jonins that were about him. When it came to Naruto, he would go against the Hokage herself. I am almost certain Naruto will want to go back to his old apartment after this incident. All heads turned towards Naruto's room just as the shouting started. Sasuke Teme, I am not some charity case. I will not be bounced around homes. Besides, Kakashi-sensei's house was just burned down. I absolutely refuse to repeat a mistake. Dobi, no one in this entire village would dare attack the Uchiha compound. Sasuke stated calmly. He does have a point, Naruto-kun. Kakashi said, looked quite amused at the scene before him. Sakura was quite literally staring at the two boys open-mouthed. I can't believe Sasuke-kun and Naruto-kun to move in as well. My offer is for you as well, Kakashi-sensei. Now it was Kakashi's turn to be stunned. No, that would be necessary. I will simply stay at a hotel. Sakura finally decided to speak up. No one said it was permanent or anything. But Sasuke-kun's place is the better and safer than anything else you'll get. Plus it would be rude to refuse such a gracious offer. No, absolutely not. I can't possibly. It would not be appropriate for me to stay with my students. Naruto was staying with you prior to this. Sasuke said accusingly. Kakashi sighed then grinned. Well, I'll stay wherever Naruto goes. Sensei. Naruto screamed. Kit, stay with Sasuke. But no. Kyuubi laughed. Do as your mother tells you. Sasuke, Sakura and Kakashi watched as Naruto gained a blank expression before sighing. Alright, I'll stay with you. Kakashi's eyes widened. That was fair, easier than when I asked him. He pouted. What was that about? Was the most common thought amongst those in the waiting R. They all blinked when Sakura walked out, dropped a bombshell and walked back in. They're staying where? Asuma asked for clarification. Sasuke asked both to move in. He's starting to mellow, thought Tsunade. Sasuke-kun offered them a place to stay. What's the big deal? He offered the same to Sakura and it's not like he doesn't have the room. Ino said offhandedly, feeling slightly insulted on Sasuke's behalf at how shocked everyone seemed to be. So long as Naruto has no problem with, I don't see any reason why he can't. Besides, he's a shinobi, so it's his own choice. Haruka stated calmly. Very true, and those senseis living with their students is often looked down upon. I highly doubt there will be any problems. Asuma added. Everyone looked at Tsunade, awaiting an answer. It's not actually against any laws, so even if someone protested they'll have nothing to support that, it won't be a problem. She stated. Sasuke chose this moment to walk back into the waiting area. Is there a problem? Obviously he had been practicing his glaring because everyone in the building felt the intensity of the infamous Uchiha glare. No problems, Shizune said clearly. Teme, stop terrorizing people. Naruto called out. Sasuke sighed and after one lasting glare, turned and walked back into Naruto's room. Dobi, get back into bed. The door slammed shut, echoing down the hallway. I guess that's settled then. Ino cheerfully acknowledged. Everyone nodded. Haruka smiled. Since everything appears to have worked out, you two teams both have missions, so off you go. Tsunade ordered. Yes ma'am, I have a class to teach. Excuse me, Hokage-sama. Haruka bowed respectfully and after poking his head in for a quick goodbye to Naruto, left the building. Tsunade sighed and looked at Shizune. Paperwork? Shizune nodded. Paperwork, Shizune said firmly. Head hanging dejectedly. Tsunade plodded back to her office. Teme stopped terrorizing people. Naruto called out. Kakashi and Sakura sighed. They heard an identical sigh from out of the room. Seconds later Sasuke stormed in, slamming the door shut whilst looking wide-eyed at Naruto. Dobi, get back into bed. All eyes in the room turned to Naruto, who was hanging half out of the bed. Kakashi frowned at him while Naruto sheepishly pulled himself back up onto the bed. Just in time too, as the door opened and Iruka's head appeared. I've got to get going. Behave yourself, Naruto-kun. You to Kakashi-san. They both nodded. As soon as he left, everyone refocused on Naruto. He held his hands up. I wasn't going anywhere, I swear. I just slipped. Naruto. So can we go? He landed his puppy dog eyes on his sensei, who blinked. We've only been here for a day or so. Naruto groaned and collapsed against his pillow. But that's a day without ramen. He whined, and I'm hungry. Eye rolls all round after that comment. Sasuke smirked. You know there's no ramen at my place. Naruto went white. Sakura nodded. That's true. I've never seen any. Naruto? Naruto. Naruto was staring blankly ahead, shaking uncontrollably and muttering. No ramen. No ramen. No ramen. Naruto, snap out of it. Sakura snapped, looking scared. Sasuke, do something. Sasuke was also feeling scared, though it didn't show. Hey Dobi? Naruto. We'll get some, okay. Naruto blinked. Naruto, we'll pick some up on our way back. We promise. Breathe. Kakashi looked amused. Yay, I knew that would work. You two promised. Ramen is the best. Sakura and Sasuke glared at the blonde while Kakashi and Naruto chuckled. Oh, Naruto, you're impossible. As it turned out, Tsunade sent Shizune to inform both Kakashi and Naruto that she wanted them both to stay another night. She wanted to be sure that Kakashi's lungs were healing well and figured it wouldn't hurt to keep Naruto in as well, even though Kyuubi had his ouchies well in hand. So true to team spirit, Sakura declared it a sleepover and after commanding Sasuke to stay, rushed to check with the nurses. She does realize it's not even midday yet? Naruto commented. Sasuke grunted and Kakashi eyes smiled. Man, what are we supposed to do all day? Naruto threw out. Sasuke, will you get me some ramen please? I've been told to stay. Sasuke stated. Kakashi snorted and Naruto glared. Teme. Dobi. Ak. Naruto tossed his pillow at Sasuke, who expertly dodged and then used it as a cushion as he sat in a chair. Hey, give it back. No. Teme. The two sat glaring at each other until unsurprisingly broke the silence. Hey Teme, you still have any problems with the poison? Kakashi's ears perked up. No. You? Naruto sighed. Only every so often and they're not very painful anymore. Kakashi frowned. We'll get you both checked out again whilst we're here, he declared. Two heads swiveled in his direction. Mine is gone, so it's not necessary. Sasuke said dully. I'm sure Ba-chan already checked. No need to bring it up again. Naruto added hastily. Should probably get Sakura looked at as well. No harm in checking to see if everyone is okay. He continued on as if they hadn't even spoken. Naruto glanced at Sasuke. So you'll get looked at too, then sensei? Huh? You were injured as well. It only seems fair. Sasuke said slyly. They're ganging up on me. Kakashi thought. His shoulders slumped. Fine, fine. Whatever makes you guys happy. He eyes smiled. Ramen, dango, they chorused. Huh? Ramen makes me happy. Dango for Sasuke. Kakashi sensei's treat. Right sensei? Two pairs of sad eyes locked on Kakashi. Naruto's stomach rumbled. How does Iruka do it? I've only got 3 and he has a whole class full. My respect has grown for that man. And since when did Sasuke have sad eyes? He's Mr. Emo. I feel a headache coming on. No. Sad looks intensified. Kakashi felt himself weaken. Reinforcements arrived. They said we can stay and they'll even drag some cots up for us. Hey, what's with the sad faces? Kakashi sensei said he would pay for lunch but then he can't leave the hospital. I'll go. Sakura smiled and turned to Kakashi, her hand outstretched. Sighing, Kakashi handed over some cash. Pork ramen for me. She nodded. Dango for Sasuke and miso for Naruto. Right? They smirked. And sushi for me. I'll be back soon. She skipped from the room. Kakashi sighed and rubbed his temples. Damn brats. Being a team does not mean ganging up on your poor unsuspecting sensei. He leaned back against his bed. It was nearly 2 hours later that Sakura returned and was currently being glared at by 3 pairs of very hungry eyes. She shifted uncomfortably. "What took you so long?" Kakashi asked. Sakura smiled. "Oh, I just got lost on the road of life." Naruto erupted in laughter and Sasuke barely restrained a small snort. Kakashi's sweat dropped and silently sulked. The rest of the day passed relatively quickly. Kakashi's students taking every opportunity to embarrass him in front of any nurse that stopped by. The boys pouted when Kakashi told Tsunade that both boys still felt some effects of the poison and in turn having Kakashi glare at them after they discussed Kakashi's recurring headaches. Sakura, in an effort to save her sanity, relented to being checked over without complaint. All things considered, they were pronounced an almost healthy team. Although Tsunade still refused to allow them any more missions until the latest injuries were healed. Surprisingly, all these interruptions caused the afternoon to pass quickly, and before they knew it, night was upon them. It was then that Kakashi decided to bring up the training mission. He quietly asked for their attention. He was pleasantly surprised when all 3 swiveled towards him promptly. "We have a training mission as soon as the Hokage-sama to partake in it." 3 sets of eyebrows raised. Nice timing, he thought. "We are going to retrieve Sakura's things." Silence reigned. "I doubt my father will agree to that," Sakura said, staring wide-eyed at her sensei. All 3 could tell he was pleased with himself. "We'll only be taking the things you paid for yourself. Any items given to you via the academy as well as gifts," he stated calmly, happily ignoring the shell-shocked look on Sakura's face. "It's a mission that has been sanctioned by the Hokage. If it's all stuff that belongs to Sakura-chan, then why can't she just go and get them?" "Well, that's no fun," Kakashi exclaimed. "This will be a good exercise in stealth for you guys." The giddy squeal Sakura released was all the warning Kakashi got before he was engulfed in a massive hug from his pink-haired student. "Thank you, Kakashi-sensei," he smiled gently and ruffled her hair. "Hey Sakura-chan, any chance you can cook us the ramen that's in my bag?" Naruto interrupted quietly. Sasuke raised a questioning eyebrow. Naruto groaned. "What teme, I'm hungry, and if I leave this bed Iruka will kill me." "How is he going to know Dobi? He's a teacher teme." "Hey, so am I. You don't count, Kakashi-sensei." Sakura giggled. "Hey." Any further comments were cut off as a nurse entered the room and deposited 3 plates of food in the room. The 4th she held in her hand still. She turned hopeful eyes towards Kakashi. "Would you like me to feed you, Hitaki-san?" She battered her eyes. The room seemed frozen. Then the room was filled with restrained giggles. Blushing scarlet, Kakashi reached for his plate. "No thank you, ma'am. I can manage." "Oh, it's no problem. I don't mind." Kakashi sighed and made shooing motions. "Please hand me my meal and leave," he said sternly, glaring at the woman who was embarrassing him. Bowing her head, she shoved the plate into his hand and strode briskly from the room, a blush adorning her cheeks. Silence reigned. The laughter evolved from the giggles. "It's not funny." Pouting, Kakashi ate his meal quickly, using their laughter as a cover. Slowly the others turned to their meals as well, and they enjoyed a companionable silence whilst eating. Afterwards, minor chatting occurred until the past few days caught up with the foursome. Sasuke and Sakura settled themselves more comfortably on their cots while Naruto and Kakashi sunk down on their beds. Another nurse stopped by and could not help the small smile from appearing on her face. Before her was the image of a perfect family. Something she had not seen in a long time amongst a shinobi team. Quickly she performed her routine checks and as well as pulling the blankets higher on the 3 young ninjas. It escaped her notice, however, the way their sensei tensed when she touched each child. One wrong move and her life would have been forfeit. Still smiling, she slunk from the room. Morning came far too quickly as far as Sakura was concerned, and grumbling to herself she yanked the covers more firmly around her body. But to say Naruto was excited would be the understatement of the year. He was fully clothed before Tsunade was even in the building and was impatiently awaiting her arrival. "What's taking so long? It's so early, I doubt the Hokage is even out of bed yet," Sasuke said, leaving off the usual Dobi insult due to tiredness. "Go back to sleep for a little while, Naruto. Even sensei isn't awake yet," Sakura mumbled. Naruto looked downcast. "But I don't want to stay here anymore. I don't see why I just can't leave. I feel fine." Groaning, Sakura propped herself up and gave a half-hearted glare at Naruto. Sasuke, go find a nurse and see if Tsunade-sama is in the building. Why me? Sasuke almost whined. Sakura turned her glare on him. She was not a morning person. Because I can't be bothered and Naruto cannot leave this room. Thus you are the only person left. Unless you want to wake Kakashi-sensei. Oh wait, he's not allowed to leave either. Get it? Fine, I'm going. No need to throw a hissy fit. Sasuke grumbled and pulled himself out of bed to get dressed. He stormed from the room in silence. Naruto gaped at Sakura. You just told Sasuke where to go. That's twice now. Sakura turned a sad gaze towards him. I have realized my past mistakes and I aim to learn from them. My treatment of you and idolization of Sasuke have done nothing for this team and I will work to better myself for the team. A lot of things have changed since our last mission. I guess my eyes have opened finally. Well said, Sakura, thought Kakashi as he listened to the exchange. Naruto was now staring at Sakura with a confused expression. Sasuke walked casually back into the room, glanced around and asked, Sakura, what did you do, Naruto? He looks more idiotic than usual. Naruto turned to him, happy that some things will always stay the same. Teme, is Ba-chan coming now? Sasuke sighed. No, Dobi. She has to check in at the tower first and then do her appointed rounds. Naruto groaned, then smiled. Then ramen for breakfast? He looked hopeful. Naruto, you are not having breakfast for every meal, and Kakashi stopped pretending to be asleep. You're not 5. Iruka said, striding into the room. Iruka-sensei. Naruto declared loudly and launched himself at the teacher. I want to leave. Sasuke and Sakura rolled their eyes at each other. When the Hokage says you may and not before. Naruto bowed his head in defeat. Kakashi grumbled inwardly. Why doesn't he listen to me like that? Iruka hung around for another hour, easily keeping Naruto amused and distracted while the other three watched on in awe. The connection between the two was quite obvious and each felt they were intruding on something special. However, Naruto and Iruka were very much aware of the eyes looking on and were happy that for once they were friendly. Iruka took his leave when Tsunade walked in, followed closely by Shizune. Good morning everyone. She smiled at the bouncing Naruto. I gather you're ready to leave then. He's been ready since 5 this morning. Sakura said grumpily. Sasuke nodded. Naruto sent them a scowl that had a little too much grin in it. So can we go now? You came, you saw, you declared well. Naruto aimed puppy dog eyes at her. Tsunade chuckled. Examinations first, Naruto. Starting with you, Kakashi. Kakashi gave a small shrug. The checkups took far longer than they should have due to Naruto being mildly uncooperative. Dobi, would you just get on with it? I do not want to spend another night stuck in this place. How dare you, Teme? Naruto spat, turning his attention towards Sasuke, thus allowing Tsunade to do her job. Thank goodness that is over. Where to now, sensei? Sakura asked. Kakashi stared in wonder. Since when did we have to do everything together? Sasuke's house, I guess. That is if the offer still stands? Sasuke nodded. It does. Smiling, Sakura linked arms with Sasuke and Naruto and proceeded to drag them all the way to the Uchiha district. Wow, this place is big. I once had a big family. Sasuke blinked, unsure of why he had spoken those words. Well, we're smaller but we're still a family. Sakura said lovingly, and Kakashi blinked when she included him in her smile. Hurry up, sensei. You're showing your age. Kakashi huffed indignantly. I'm not that old, you know. Whatever you say, Kaka-sensei. Shrugging of Sakura's arm, Sasuke led the small party through the front door of one of the many houses. Naruto continued to stare around in wonder but regained enough sense to quickly try to hide it. Sasuke could not help but smirk at his actions. He silently led them through several halls, all of which looked the same to Naruto, so Sasuke was sure he'd have to find the blonde Dobi several times before he learned his way around. Sakura moved ahead at this point and stood in front of a day. This room is mine. If you value your body parts, one would suggest not going in there. Sasuke HMPHED and pointed to a room 3 doors down. That one is my room. You guys can have any of the rooms in between. Though I do ask you to not go in the room at the end. It belonged to my parents. He said quietly. Naruto and Kakashi nodded and moved to separate doors. Naruto choosing the one opposite Sasuke and Kakashi walking into the room next to it. The three men choosing to leave a few rooms between them and the not-so-morning person known as Sakura. Safety first after all. Sasuke and Sakura headed back to the main room, trusting Kakashi to bring Naruto with him once they had unpacked. "Are you sure you're okay with all this? We have kind of imposed," Sakura asked whilst putting on some tea. "I would not have offered if I could not cope." "It's not about coping, Sasuke. It's about you being alright with all of us living here." Sasuke sighed. He seemed to be struggling with something. His head sagged in defeat. "Yes, Sakura. I'm not really sure why I'm offering the things I've been offering, but for once I feel as though this is something I want to do." His gaze was locked on clenched fists. A small hand closed over his own. "You're not alone anymore, and neither are any of us. Not anymore." Sasuke found himself truly wanting to believe that, and for the first time thoughts of Itachi were far from the foremost thought in his mind. Blinking, Sasuke shook his head and stood abruptly, startling Sakura. "Thank you." He exited the building via a door in the kitchen, and soon after thumps could be heard from out back. Soon after, Kakashi walked into the kitchen with Naruto trailing behind him. "It's just a few hallways. How can you possibly have gotten lost?" "It's not my fault. I just got turned around." Naruto pouted. Sakura giggled and offered them both cups of tea. Naruto declined and wandered out the door, following the loud thumps. Kakashi raised an eyebrow at Sakura. "Sasuke." Kakashi nodded in understanding. "What do you want, Dobi? You're not allowed to spar yet." Naruto frowned unhappily. "I get out of the hospital and I still can't do anything." Sasuke glared and hit the training post harder. "Well, that's what you get for getting hurt." Naruto grew angry. "It wasn't my fault. I can't help what they do. I suppose you consider it my fault that Kakashi-sensei was hurt." Sasuke froze mid-hit and turned to Naruto. He sighed. "I didn't mean it like that." Naruto gasped. Sasuke looked worried. "What? That was practically an apology. And you didn't call me Dobi." Sasuke frowned. "Is that all? I thought something was wrong. You almost sound worried." I mean. Naruto was speechless and Sasuke was in shock. "I can't believe I just said that. Damn it." Sasuke was currently running through a list of things that would get him out of this situation. A hand rested on his shoulder. "Don't worry about it, Sasuke. I understand." Naruto said quietly. "I consider you an important person too. Is something going on out here?" "I heard shouting," Sakura asked, walking out of the kitchen with Kakashi right behind her. Sasuke and Naruto exchanged looks and shook their heads. Sakura glanced between them and frowned. "You guys are weird." She held up a tray of tea. "Want some?" They once again shook their heads. "I'm going to train a little," Sasuke said. Naruto opened his mouth. "You're not even going to try and talk me into letting you train, Naruto?" Kakashi frowned. Naruto relented, plodded over to Sakura and picked up a teacup. Smiling at his sensei, he sipped the tea. "Better?" Kakashi threw his hands up and walked inside. "What did I do?" Sakura laughed. "Sometimes, Naruto, you don't have to do anything." Sasuke smirked as well. Naruto looked between his two amused friends. "It's not fair. I don't know what's going on," he wailed, which only increased Sakura's laughter. Turning in a huff, Naruto walked inside, his head held high. "I'm going to my room to read a scroll." He let out a dignified huff and closed the door behind him. Sakura's minor control of her amusement was lost and she erupted in laughter that had her doubled over. Even Sasuke was struggling to maintain his usual composure, which he would admit, was happening quite a bit lately. "He's fun." Sasuke nodded and then resumed his training. Sakura settled in near him and pulled out a small medical scroll to read, taking great comfort in the fact that she had her real family all together and in one piece once again. It was almost 1 week later that Tsunade sent Shizune to check up on them and pronounce that Naruto and Kakashi could once again resume training. Shizune also announced that they could also proceed with their training mission in 2 weeks' time. As such, Naruto once again threw himself happily into retraining his body. Any lost muscle by the two injured ninja was quickly regained. Kakashi had them working with the radio and learning hand signals as well as stealth. He quickly grew frustrated at how unquiet Naruto could be. "Do you even know how to sit still, Naruto?" Even when Naruto finally grasped the concept of radio silence, he did not seem to understand that if he moved then he made noise. And Naruto just didn't seem to be able to sit still. Naruto rubbed the back of his head. Sorry, sensei. Being still isn't really my thing." Kakashi sighed. "I can see that." Kakashi mulled things over and smiled. "Have you ever hanged your clones before?" Naruto thought for a second and then burst into laughter. Sasuke poked at him. What's gotten into you, Dobi? Sorry sensei. If you want to know the answer to that question you'd have to ask Ebisu sensei. He said amidst his residing giggles. Kakashi sighed and outlined the basics and how he thought Naruto could be useful during a stealth mission without actually being near enough for anyone to hear him. Naruto was quite pleased at having found another useful thing about his clones, and after finishing their training session as a team, began practicing. In the meantime, Kakashi went off in search of the young Hokage trainer. 3 days later, one blushing Kakashi sat down with his team to plan their stealth mission. Though his students were giving him strange looks. Sakura, can you draw us up a floor plan of your house please? Kakashi asked and Sakura nodded. How are we doing this, sensei? Inquired Sasuke, wondering how they were going to pull off a stealth mission with Naruto on the team. Once I know the layout I'll let you know the precise details, however as a reminder this will be a stealth mission. So no unnecessary noises, Naruto. Hey, Kakashi ignored him. The object is to get in, grab the items, and get out again. All without being seen, heard, or anything being left behind. It sounds easy. Not really, Naruto. My family are not wealthy like the clans are, but we were well off enough to have a few guards and they change routine often. No doubt it has been changed since I was kicked out. How many? Sasuke asked, curious as to why her family would need such protection. Only 4, well when I was last there anywhere. It's not like we ever actually needed them. My family is mildly paranoid. Done sensei. She passed what she had drawn to Kakashi. Naruto leaned over his shoulder to get a look. At least it's not as big as this place. Naruto commented. Well done Sakura, you've got a good memory. What are we going to be grabbing? Sakura produced another piece of paper and passed it over. That's everything that belongs to me. Sasuke eyed the list. Kakashi-sensei, how exactly do you plan on getting her stuff out of the building? Kakashi smirked. Like Naruto does. With storage seals. His team grinned. Right, is everyone in place? Yes. Then move in. Naruto, make sure your clones know what to do if they come across anyone. Yes sensei. Alright, radio silence unless absolutely needed. He got no response and smirked before moving into the house. It was a simple plan. Due to the size of the house, Naruto made several clones and hanged them into flies. They were currently following the guards around. Kakashi would patrol the outer halls in case somebody decided to go for a midnight snack. In the meantime, Sasuke and Sakura would go to her old room and grab the stuff before sealing it and hightailing it out of there. Everything was going as planned. Kakashi was patiently waiting for the all clear from his students when the radio crackled to life. Kaka-sensei, we've got a problem. They've boxed my stuff up. There are only a few things here. Naruto cut in. One of the guards had broken pattern. He's heading inside. Towards your parents' room. Sakura, Sasuke, stay put. Once the guard has left the area, switch the backup plan. Naruto was left in awe of his friend's stealth skills. He made more clones and hanged them into flies. 3 made their way to Sakura and Sasuke. Once there they dispersed and Naruto once again had a full layout. He had his other flies to find Kakashi and check in with the guards. Everyone's still where they're supposed to be. The third guard is moving past Sakura's room and heading outside via the front door. Right, move out. Yes. The second plan involved making their way to the Haruna warehouse. Once they had all met up 2 blocks away, they steadily made their way to the warehouse section of the village and Sakura easily snuck them all through the maze of buildings. The Haruna warehouses was in fact one warehouse located within the Konoha warehouse district. With Sakura's knowledge and the guards' lack of any skill, the team made it easily past the guards. Naruto of course remaining outside, once again providing detailed information on guard locations. Given that the Harunas were an orderly family and the warehouse was merely a large square room packed to the rafters with junk, it took the team no time at all to locate some newly placed boxes. Whilst Sakura was sifting through the boxes, searching for her items, Sasuke kept watch and Kakashi pulled out the pre-made storage scrolls. They had just finished sealing the items when Naruto once again sounded the alarm. With practiced ease, Kakashi, Sakura and Sasuke blended into the shadows as one guard poked his head through the door and did a cursory sweep of the room with his eyes before ducking back out. Sasuke snorted quietly. Even Kakashi was disappointed at the lack of thoroughness. This is our non-shinobi guard force? Maybe I should speak with the Hokage about this. Kakashi thought. These kind of people replaced the Uchiha police force. Pathetic. And I felt safe leaving my things with these guys? Ramen. With no other disruptions, Team 7 regrouped and casually made their back to the Uchiha compound. Once there, Sakura, after hugging all 3 of her boys, disappeared into her room. Said boys soon dispersed, with Kakashi taking the long way around to report the success of their mission, as well as bring up the matter of the improperly trained guards. Sasuke going to kitchen and Naruto surprisingly heading to his room. When Sasuke went past 15 minutes later and glanced in, Naruto was fast asleep surrounded by scrolls. A small smile graced Sasuke's porcelain face. "Dobi," he said softly and continued on his way. It was a strangely quiet house that Kakashi returned to many hours later, and as he checked on each of his students, finding them all to be asleep, he wondered if this was what his own sensei felt when had watched over them as they had slept out in the field. A warm, contented feeling that each one was safe and happy. That's all for now. If you enjoyed, then please like, share and do comments.